her off. Flying through the hallway like a disco moth. Pitching to the couch, then I loop through the fan. My tiny whoop's grooving like a funky jam. I dip through the doorway, spin by the cab, bounce off the toaster, yeah, I meant to do that. Neighbors knocking, saying, what's that sound? It's my brush motor soul train getting down. Flying through the curtain, dancing on breeze, freestyle funk in my living room with ease. Tiny whoop magic, bumping every wall. I'm the James Brown of flight, can't stop it all. I got LED strobes and a shag rug trail. I'm looping through the lava lamp, leaving a tail. My whoop's got rhythm, my stick's got soul. I'm the pilot of the party. On a roll, TV remotes a gate, the lamps a dive. I'm flying like it's 75. No GPS, no rules, no shame. Just a funky little quad in a soul train frame. Move it low, we fly that flow. Grab that gap, no time to nap. No time to nap. Hit that roll, funk and control. Bounce that wall, we fly it all. We fly it all. Tiny whoop love, funky and free. We fly indoors, we fly with glee. Whoop it, loop it, groove it, move it, bounce it, flip it, funk it, rip it, fly that soul, don't lose control. Tiny whoop love gonna make you whole. I thread the needle through the vinyl stacks, bounce off the mirror ball, never looking back. My quad's got soul, it's got style, it's got sass. It dips through the incense like a blast from the past. I'm flying figure eights through the lava lamp glow, dodging house plants like a funky pro. My whoop's got rhythm, my stick's got heat. I'm the pilot of the party with the grooviest beat. I loop through the hallway, I dive by the broom. I'm the disco ghost in your living room. I hit that split that's over grandma's chair. She just claps and says, boy, you got flair. I'm flying freestyle with a velvet touch. My quad so smooth it don't need a clutch. From the shag rug to the ceiling fan, I'm the funky little fly with a master plan. The curtains dancing on the breeze, freestyle funk in my living room with ease. Tiny whoop magic bumping every wall. I'm the James Brown of flight, can't stop at all. Can't stop at all. Can't stop at all.
Hey.
Hello, friends. My name's Aaron Ciotti. Everybody calls me Ciotti. I forgot to hit the thing again, as always. I'll get a prime lens one of these days, so I don't have to do this every time. Kevin Sumner's on the voice.
Hey, folks.
On the voice. That's great. Welcome to Monday Q&A. We are going to be talking about what 2S build is best for you. Is it ducted? Is it digital? Is it analog? Is it open prop? You were just watching the Baby Turtle Pro 2-inch 04 Lite, 25 degrees up tilt. Which board is this? This is the Flywoo board, the white Flywoo HD board. Happy model 1103, 11,000 kV motors, GemFan 2023S props. I flew all four of these builds today. and had an absolute blast. It was really nice out here in Georgia today. It's one of the first days that it's not been like excruciatingly cold since December, and so yeah, I had a really good time. It's like flying from inside the front door is cool and all, but like not being able to hear the drone sucks. And I also don't get as good range because I'm like inside the front door, right? And so like just flying from the front steps was so much fun. Also, I think that like we really do fly better when we hear the thing, because when we move the throttle and then we hear the motors react, like there's a connection there, and like it almost makes us sort of more comfortable in a weird way. Kevin, have you ever had that experience?
I know what you're talking about with the connectedness when you can't hear stuff.
Because like, you know what it is too? When we move the throttle just a little bit, we can't, well, if your throttle stick is really loose like mine, title of my sex tape.
That's what she said.
Yeah. If you move the throttle a little bit, you can't feel it, but you can hear it. And so like little changes to the throttle, being able to hear them gives you that feedback. I think that has something to do with it.
You know what's really screwy? You get the quad far enough away when you're flying like 3-inch or 5-inch.
That's when it happens. Yep.
Especially when you hear it bouncing off the building, and so you get it twice. Oh, that'll screw with your head real bad.
Totally. When I fly a 5-inch rig far enough away that I can't hear it anymore, I fly significantly worse. And there's like an anxiety to it as well, because you're like, for me at least, it's like I don't know anymore like which direction it is, right? Like when you can hear it, you're like, cool, it's on my right, it's straight out in front, it's on my left. Like obviously you kind of know where it is, but like, you know, like in your brain in the moment, it's like, well, maybe it warped over there and I don't actually know where it is, and if it goes down, I won't know where to fucking go to find it. I don't know. That's probably just me being a lunatic.
Well, I put buzzers on all my quads that are not whoop, so I don't really ever have to worry about that problem. I made that mistake one time, and then I said, the $20 per quad's worth it.
Yeah. You know, it's funny you mentioned that. Lite on YouTube just put a video up, putting a buzzer on a micro, saying like, "Oh my god, I should have done this forever ago." I did it once, probably 9 years ago. And I remember being like, man, this is handy. And then when the ESC beepers came out, I was like, okay, never doing that again. Because it's, you know, it's more wires, it's more complexity. I sort of learned a bit of a lesson with microphones. There was a while when, so Steele Davis has always flown with audio. And way back when, we all thought that, you know, if we just did whatever he does, we would be better pilots. And so I put microphones on a whole bunch of 5-inch rigs and started flying with audio, and it was cool. But then I had a but then like you get tired of like plugging it into the goggles and having it in your ear, and it doesn't really do much of anything. Like it's cool, but like I don't know, every once in a while, like it's really handy. Like if you're, it would actually be kind of cool. Now that I'm doing like work on set, now that, you know, the past 4 years I've been doing work, professional work, it would be kind of cool because like you could land by the person that you're filming, disarm, and then if they're talking, you would actually be able to hear them. But, you know, now that we all fly DJI, we don't even have that option. But yeah, I put it on a bunch of rigs, flew them around, crashed the shit out of them, right? They're freestyle rigs. Well, one of the microphones failed, and it failed open circuit, and it was soldered to the flight controller. Luckily, the flight controller had whatever the open circuit protection is, and so the flight controller just wouldn't turn on. And so the quad goes down, doesn't work anymore. Troubleshoot, because like, why would you think that the microphone has failed? It took me forever to troubleshoot this thing, to the point where I actually I troubleshot everything other than the mic. And then I think I even swapped the flight controller out, and I put a new flight controller in it, and it did it with the new flight controller. And at that point I was like, wait, what? And then at some point I disconnected the mic, and magically the problem was gone. And so that was like, for me, I took that as a lesson of like, just if it's not absolutely necessary, don't have it wired up. Like, just, you know, keep as few things connected, right? In the same vein as like why we have manual arm switches. Like, a lot of what we do in FPV is why we don't have power switches, right? Why we physically plug and unplug our batteries in, right? There's a lot of stuff that we do in FPV that seems kind of insane to every single other person that we tell it to, but we do it because we beat these things to death, and we're trying to really, you know, reduce the number of failure points. So yeah, that's interesting. In the chat, Jimmy the Cow was first. Sleepy CBR, Yukon FPV, Nyafu, Kevin Sumner, Flankadelic, Green Thumb, Jimmy the Cow, Render, Mike Julio, Frank Dr. Nicholas. Nice. Frank changed his name. I love it. Render, Mupshot, Danzilla the Terrible, Tanky, Level Up, Robert Cyrus, Black Wolf, Sly Stop, Rod FPV, Cjo, For Sizzle. I'm gonna go with Bozita. Hey Ryan. Gaining Green Meow. That's a fun name. What's the story behind that name, Gaining? He says, I have a lump between my thighs.
Oh my god.
Prefer Fruit of the Loom or Hanes. I thought that was gonna rhyme at the end. I saw thighs, and then for some reason I thought the last word was a rhyme. I was all excited to read a rhyming chat comment. Oh shit. Tanky, capital C, Cjo, FizzPV, Denzel the Terrible, Uriel, capital C. We're gonna leave it there. If you want the gangly to read your name, you got to get into the chat early, or just type at CiottiFPV and I'll read your chat comment. This is a Q&A live stream. Ask any questions that you've got. When I get caught up on chat and we get done with all of our other stuff, we'll start talking about and looking at some flight footage from today with this. And if we have enough time, we'll fly around a little bit with the Ultimate Freestyle Whoop here to get a little bit more time on these VCI motors so that I can hopefully get used to them. And then I'm going to switch back to the Moon Travelers from tinywhoop to see. My preferred way of testing gear is to take a rig that I'm very familiar with. I fly it a bunch as it is, and then I make the change. I put the new propeller, the new motor, the new whatever on, and I'll fly a battery, and I'll immediately try to come up with like some thoughts on it, and then I'll keep flying it, and I'll try to get used to it with the different thing, and then I'll switch back to the original setup. And what when I make the change to the new product, like I have some kind of an idea, but it's usually a lot more difficult. It's when I switch back the second time to my original gear that I can like really figure out what I do and don't like about it and what's different about it. 'Cause it's subtle, you know, like propellers are sometimes not so subtle, but like as the propellers get better and better, the differences between them becomes more and more subtle. A 40,000 kV motor versus a 20,000 kV motor, yeah, it's not gonna be very subtle, but like, you know, typically we're not trying stuff that's that different. And as things get better, it becomes more subtle. The difference between stuff literally becomes less drastic, and so it becomes harder and harder to tell the difference. And the placebo is unbelievably strong in FPV, so it's legitimately hard to tell the difference between this stuff. And so yeah, that's sort of the plan. I wanted to fly 6 batteries on yesterday's stream, but we got all carried away, and then I had to wrap it up like I always do on Sundays. So we'll fly tonight, hopefully. I got stuff plugged in. The room is ready to go. Jimmy the Cow tagged me and said there's no best 2S build, just different, just like boobies. I love them all. I was very tempted to go clickbaity with the thumbnail and the title of the stream and put what is the best 2-inch setup, but every once in a while I'll go for the clickbait because it works unreasonably well. But more often than not, I try to ask, the right questions. I do think it is important. Danzilla Terrible says, thank goodness CiottiFPV is starting. Just peeked on JB stream and he was using AI to answer chat questions. Screw that. Now, he was using AI to make himself and everyone else laugh. He was like jokingly using it to answer chat questions. Although he was talking earlier in his stream about he's got a video coming out where he tried to use AI to I believe I didn't catch the whole stream, but it sounds like he's got a video coming out trying to use AI for PID tuning, which was super interesting. I've heard of people doing that. What I found really cool about what he was saying is that like it would suggest that he like go one way with the PIDs, and then he would say like, that didn't help, or like this happened, and then it would be like, okay, go the other way, which is like your cat can tell you to do that. Like that's just what we do. Like it's just in so many ways AI is just worthless. In a lot of ways obviously it's not, but like that's such a perfect example of how worthless it is, because like that's sort of how we PID tune, right? That's how we PID tuned up until about 5 years ago, that we started using black box really heavily. And quite honestly, a lot of tinywhoop AIOs still don't have black box, and that's still the way of tuning. And it's a perfectly valid way of tuning. You move it up enough that you can tell a difference. You move it down enough that you can tell a difference, and you pick which one is better. And then you go a little bit farther. And so like, using AI for tuning is a horrible idea. Just it doesn't know, and it's never going to know. You're the only one that's going to be able to know, because you're the only one that's flying the thing. And so make changes, try to see if you can tell a difference. If you can't tell a difference, make more of a change. Eventually you'll be able to tell a difference, and then go the other way and see if it's better or worse, and then you find your middle ground. That's how you tune your rates in. That's how you can tune your PIDs in. That's how you can tune the filters in. Back when I was super into photography, and it was when I was working at disc makers, actually, in the sales department. I got a call from a guy who was having us do a run of photography DVDs for him, of him teaching, and the title of it was Raw Without FUD, and I'd never heard of FUD. Do you know what FUD is, Kevin?
Fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
See, I'm not. I get that's a computer nerd acronym, isn't it?
It is very much a. I think it's in the jargon manual.
Okay.
From the 80s that was floating around like MIT.
That makes sense. Okay. Yeah. So like I didn't know what that was at the time, and so like once he sent the artwork over and I saw that, the next call I had with him, I was like, hey, by the way, like I've been playing around with photography for the past bunch of years. But I talked to him about like Strobus 101 and David Hobby. We had an awesome conversation, and I was like, what's FUD? and like. I will never forget this, because like, of that conversation, and like he was like, oh, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I'm like, oh, cool. And what's funny is I that's why I didn't shoot RAW. I was up until that point, I shot in JPEG, because I had fear, uncertainty, and doubt about shooting in RAW. And so he's like, dude, take a copy when it gets done. I was like, oh, you don't have to tell me to do that. But like, it's that, right? Like PID tuning, filter tuning, sometimes even rates tuning. Most people have fear, uncertainty, and doubt about it. Don't. Like, just don't. You're probably not going to blow it up. If it's going to blow up, it'll tell you. It's going to oscillate to the moon. Be ready to disarm it, right? Like a lot of, and I was as guilty of this, when I first got into FPV, I was afraid as shit to push the PIDs, because I didn't want to blow anything up, but B, I was always worried that I wouldn't be able to get it back to where it was. I got over that by just like taking screenshots and writing stuff down. But like, that's a real thing that a lot of people have within tuning filters and PIDs. And so get over that. Make changes, listen to the quad, feel for motor heat, be ready to disarm it, because if it starts oscillating away, all you got to do is disarm it, and you can learn how to tune. And it's kind of the only way to tune stuff that doesn't have black box, but it's a perfectly valid way of tuning. Like, on a whole bunch of occasions, I've sent Brandon's Baked Beans, who is a genius with black box, logs from rigs that I had that were tuned to where I liked them. And he would look at the black box logs and be like, yeah, this is pretty damn good. You could tighten this up here, you could do this here, but like this is, 90%, 95%. And so tuning in those methods, go up, go down, see where it's better, continue to dial it in, just like total caveman hit it with a club over and over again. It does work. It's not going to get you the 100% perfect tune, but I don't think you should run 100% perfect tune, because then every time you crash, you got to pull the tune back. And so, there are some things that black box absolutely can get dialed in a little bit better that doesn't make the tune a razor's edge, but like we're talking a couple percent. And, mere mortals, other than, pilots other than like the 20 or 30 aliens on Earth, right? You're really not going to tell. Cjo says, what's your favorite use of AI? That's a really good question, because I know that there are some great uses of it. But boy, it's being overused, and there are some downsides to it. And so I think maybe like the medical side of it, right? Like the good medical side of it, where like it cures cancer, or it, right? Like I think in that world it could do some really cool I'm sure it already is. And so I think I'll go with that without really diving into it. Kevin, you're way more experienced with it. What if you had to pick one thing? What would it be?
You actually have to be really careful about the like medical use, and actually any research use, because part of how what everybody refers to as AI is actually known in the business as a large language model, which is, you can think of it as a very fancy autocorrect, or auto predict, right? Like on your iPhone keyboard, and I think they have it on Android as well, where it's like picking the next word for you. So it will feed back your biases and your presuppositions. And so if you're like headed a direction with your question, it'll go further in that direction. So you have to be really, really careful with it, kind of babysit it.
So for the record, when I say medical use, I don't mean people typing into it like, hey, I'm feeling like this, help me. I mean like them using it, the smart people using it, right?
Even
not
researchers,
for diagnosis.
Even researchers fall into this, like medical researchers fall into this.
Yeah, why wouldn't they? That's true.
Because,
sure.
But like, even though they're specialized in medicine, they're not necessarily specialized in AI usage. And so they can fall into this problem too. So learning to use AI is like learning to use any tool. You have to know where it's good and where it's bad. So I use AI, I use LLMs every day. For people that don't know, my day job is like large scale computer systems and programming. And I use it for programming a lot. But it is the kind of thing where me as a senior engineer, I basically review every line of code that it writes and go and either fix it myself or tell it to go and fix it when it is wrong. And it is wrong regularly. It is getting better all the time, but it's wrong regularly. Enough that it could really blow something up.
Scary. God. Scary times we live in, friends. Maybe we'll be all right. You never know. What else we got going? Cjo says, I see a chimney. Have you ever dove it? No, there's a bunch of scraggle kind of close to it, and it's not that tall. It also bottoms out like on the side of the house, which is kind of ugly and all dirt. And so yeah, I typically don't dive the chimney. Capital C says, what white balance do you run your DJI Air units? I run pretty much everything at 5500, which is just daylight, and then if it's cloudy, I just fix it in post. If although I shouldn't say everything, stuff that I fly indoors only, I'll set it to the proper, like, fluorescent or incandescent or whatever. But if I'm ever flying outside, I always just set it to 5500, and then if it's a little bit too cool, I can warm it up. That's a trick that I learned from photography way back when, is just like, it's what you have to, if you were to run 5500 and then fly under fluorescent lights, it's so off that when you fix it in post, it tends to not look quite right. But flying outside, the light outside is never going to be so far off that you can't correct it. And so just being at 5500 for flying outside is like always an easy kind of thing. And then, for inside, it's kind of the same deal. You can set it for incandescent, and then if you fly under fluorescent lights, it's not so far off that you can't fix it. The real problems occur when you fly mixed lighting, when you have an incandescent and a fluorescent in the same room. Half the room is going to be green, half the room is going to be yellow. And that's also the problem outside. When you go into shade, it's cooler, and then when you're in direct sunlight, it's 5500. And so that's kind of another reason to leave it set to 5500, because then it's always kind of predictable. But yeah, that's what I do. Anything outside 5500, anything inside, I'll actually set to incandescents, because I don't typically fly around fluorescents. But like the drift car place now is all fluorescents, and so I'll flip the 04s to the incandescent white balance. Good question, capital C. Flagadelic says, what power changes do you make in Betaflight to have the correct battery levels in your OSD for 2S? I've not really had to dial those in, but it's the scale. If your voltage is off, I'm sorry, if your voltage is going to be right. The voltage is the easiest one to set. It's the amperage that's sometimes off, and it's the scale, the scale value. So like if you fly a 300 mAh battery and you land at the end of the battery and it says 1000 mAh, your scale is off. And like, I approach it like a total caveman. I'll just go to the scale number in Betaflight. For the record, you cannot do this in your OSD. It does not work. It'll let you change it in the OSD, but it doesn't do anything, and it doesn't save. You have to make these changes in Betaflight. It's weird. What I'll do is I'll fly a battery, I'll plug it into Betaflight, and I'll just change the number. If the number is 300, I'll make it 600, and then I'll fly another battery, and I'll see if it's better or worse. And if it's worse, I'll go the other direction. If it's better, I'll keep going. And like, if you do that for like 3 or 4 batteries in a row, you'll get it pretty damn close. So, yeah, I approach it in the, yet again, in the caveman way. But it totally works. Mike K says, I was ripping the Mobile 8 outside today, man, it felt good. Yeah, today was a good day. I think in a lot of the country it was a little bit warmer today. Nice to not be in the depths of winter anymore. YouTube just did the thing. Scrolling back up. Madman says, are you going to Sloss Drone Derby? I am indeed. I don't know which day, but I'm going to get up there one of the days. Whatever the most, well, it'll probably be the Saturday. It'll certainly be the Saturday, because I'll stream on Friday and I'll stream on Sunday. So yeah, I'll go on Saturday. Oh wow, I'm moving up. Here we go. Cjo says, you have a Blunty now? Kevin Sumner, I forget. Kevin, did you offer to do this, or did I ask you to do this? I don't even remember. It was a couple months ago.
Honestly, I can't remember either. If I think that you asked me, and I was like, yeah, sure, that sounds great.
I like that, because that means I'm a smart person. Kevin's one of the smartest guys that I know in FPV, and just an awesome human being. So yeah, Thanks. It was an easy choice. Nyafu says, what's the best soft mounting method? I'm unsure if screw with gummy or vibration isolator is better. Soft mounting what? Screw with gummy or when you say vibration isolator?
I assume that's for flight controller to keep the like heavy stuff.
Is that rubber thing that's got the female threads on the bottom and the male threads on top? Those are the only two methods that I know of soft mounting a flight controller. So you've either got a screw going up, and then you've got the grommet, the Walter Grommet and Mr. MIDI, where the grommet is, you guys know what the grommet looks like. Or they sell these, it's a little rubber cylinder, and it's got male threads on top and female threads on the bottom. That little thing, I think that's what Yafu is calling a vibration isolator. That little thing is going to isolate left, right, front, and back, but it doesn't do anything for up and down. The grommets do. The grommets will allow up and down travel, front, back, and left, right travel. So the grommets are going to be better. But Phantom FPV has had really good luck using those, I'm assuming they're called vibration isolators, on his 5-inch setups to keep the electronics alive, to keep the ESCs from dying and the flight controllers from dying. I forget what his exact setup is, but what I think it is that he puts those rubber guys on the bottom, and then he mounts the ESC on top of them, and then I think he even mounts the flight controller on top of that, but he's basically putting the ESC onto those little guys. A lot of 5-inch ESCs come with grommets, which in theory will do the same thing. But yeah, putting our electronics on any kind of soft mounting is going to help them not explode when we hammer them into the concrete at 80 miles an hour. And so doing anything is great, but I think that the gummies are a much better, the gummies or grommets are a much better idea because they allow all directions of movement, right? Up, down, left, right, front, and back, all 3 axes.
There's also the issue. Some people were using 3D prints where you like screw into either side. Mm-hmm. And some of those 3D prints are tall enough and TPU is bendy enough that you end up with a over damped setup or a setup that has too much latency. So basically, when your quad starts to move a direction, your flight controller is a little bit further behind, and then when you stop moving that direction, when you stop rotating that direction, it'll flip back the other way, and so the flight controller will think that you're still moving that direction and apply more power, and so you'll end up with like weird extra oscillations.
Right,
so
because what'll happen is it'll oscillate. Like when you soft mount something, it will have its own resonant frequency, right? And so you got to be really careful soft mounting stuff. We see this with the soft mounted camera plates on a lot of these rigs, right? They have nasty jello because the soft mounted camera plate, the gummies that they use are very, very soft. And so that soft mount camera plate will have its own vibration. The Beta FPV canopy, the Beta FPV 04 Lite canopy, perfect example of that. It's got really soft rubber guys on all 4 corners of the camera, and the camera develops its own oscillation. And I literally had to go, it was a nightmare, and I had to put a notch filter on that oscillation because when the camera started to oscillate, the quad, the gyro in the quad feels that oscillation, and the PID loop tries to fix that oscillation. So the camera is going to vibrate no matter what because it's on these soft mounts. Well, then the PID loop and the quad try to fix that. So the camera goes one way, the quad pushes the other way. The camera comes back, the quad pushes the opposite way, and it feeds back into itself. So you got to now put a notch filter on that and tell the PID loop, hey, ignore that camera vibrating around. And so now the camera is still going to vibrate around because everything has a resonant frequency, right? Like you take your tweezers and you bang them against something, and there it is. There's the tweezer's resonant frequency, right? Everything has a resonant frequency. If that resonant frequency is near the prop or the motor's resonant frequency, it's going to feed back into itself. And so, that's why filters are so important, because everything on the quad has that resonant frequency. The frame has it, the wires have it, the propeller blades have it, right? And when you have when one of those resonant frequencies is strong enough, let's say, that the gyro feels it and the PID loop can start to push back against it, that's when things get out of control. That's when the situation escalates and we have the quad starting to try to fly away on its own. Good question. Good conversation, rather. Nyafu also says, why aren't motor arms square cubes? Wouldn't that increase strength? It's potentially the same answer. But when you say square cubes, are you maybe talking about like there are frames, there are toothpick frames that have the four arms and then they're connected front, back, left, and right. If that's what you're talking about, when you crash into stuff, we call them stringers. Those stringers break, and it's just a complete pain in the ass.
I think you meant
but it does
square
increase strength.
tubes, as in like
having
yeah,
tubes, not cubes.
Because theoretically, that's the thickest. It's the like best cross sectional area.
Yeah, so that's a really cool conversation too. Way back when, our frames had very wide arms that were very thin carbon fiber. I remember the glide frame, the FPV Cycle glide frame, was one of the first frames that used 5mm thick carbon fiber arms. We went from 3mm to 4mm, and I think that was one of the first ones on 5mm. And so, you know, the thickness versus the width of the arm, like the easy way to think about it is like, where do you want the strength? Do you want the strength left to right, or do you want the strength up and down? Well, a lot of times when we crash with a 5-inch rig, we flat bottom or we smack the arm like this, and so the thicker the arm is, we gain strength in that direction that we usually see arms break. That's the other way, right? When you break an arm, which direction does it break? Usually they break upwards, right? And so we keep increasing that thickness, that we increase that top to bottom thickness, and that gives it more in that direction. In theory, the best way to do this would be to have arms cut 4mm, 5mm, 6mm, 7mm, 8mm, crash the shit out of them, and see when the arms stop breaking in the upward direction and start breaking in the sideways direction, and then you back it off, and you go 1mm less thick than that, and now you've got the perfect mix. It's tough, right? Because like crashes occur in such weird directions, and you know, everybody crashes different and crashes into different stuff. But yeah, that's a part of the name of the game. And we've seen quads now go to like 6 and even I think 7mm thick arms. The other thing that's cool about that is when you make the arm thicker, it's going to block less thrust, right? So you make the arm thicker top to bottom, and you can actually make it more narrow left to right, and now there's an efficiency increase. So Madman says, oh no, we got that. Robert Cyrus says, maybe in the future list parts in the extended description so you don't get a bunch of questions used. Just an idea for the newbies. I actually kind of prefer when people ask me about the parts because it gives me like a chance to talk about why those parts are being used. What I don't want is for you guys to copy my builds. And this is also the same reason that I don't share my PIDs, is because my PIDs work for me. These builds and the parts that I use on these builds are very specific for me. You might like them, you might hate them. I would rather have a conversation about what different parts do, what a higher KV motor will do versus a bigger stator motor, what more PID gain does versus less PID gain, right? The medium that I've chosen here, right, long form content, this is a part of that. Like all the time people ask me like, hey, can you do like a 30-minute edit of this? And it's like, no, like this is what I want. Like 3.5, 4 years ago when I started doing this, like a big part of it was like, at the time I started live streaming to share this information, to build the understanding and to, you know, build a community of people that we could all learn together. At some point, you know, I lost my job and decided to monetize this, but that like core idea is still like huge, really high on the list of like priorities for me. And so, yeah, that's one of the reasons. Sometimes if I can remember, I'll throw a couple of affiliate links up with a couple of the products from the live stream. But a lot of times by the end of the live stream, I'm pretty cooked to use the lingo of the kids. And I need to go get a snack, get something to drink, and then a lot of times I'll fall into a GT7 half an hour semi-endurance race, and then it's just like on to the next thing a lot of times. So But yeah, I do need to be better about spamming more affiliate links. Speaking of, CiottiFPV.com is my little website where you can support me. This is a totally crowdfunded thing. This way you don't have to worry, like, is he just shilling these products because Beta FPV sends him a lot of stuff? Any company that wants to send me something, I'm very clear with them. I'm going to review this totally honest. If there's anything wrong with it, I'm going to tell everyone. If it's great, I'm going to tell everyone it's great. If it's not, I'm going to tell everyone it's not. Some companies choose to not send me anything at that point. That's totally fine. A bunch of companies do, and that means a lot because it means that they care about the feedback and they're confident in their products. Patreon is the total best way to support me, and you get a lot of benefits from it. You can jump on there for as little as $3 a month. They take the least percentage. It's an amazing community that we've got over there. You get a bunch of cool stuff, full Discord access, YouTube playlist, unviewable YouTube playlist, all kinds of fun stuff. There's an Etsy store with all kinds of good stuff. You guys have been ordering all kinds of cool shit from me. I love that. It's so much fun. Every single Etsy order gets a free propodial so that you can pull your tinywhoop propellers without ruining your motors. And for patrons, if you put in the notes, you get a free sticker, either Gangly Gang or King of the Whooper. So just in the notes, put the color of the propodial that you would like. Oh, hey, also, if you don't want the propodial, you can get the Proptopussy. It's called the Proptopus, but I'm a child, and so I have to call it the Proptopussy. This is for pulling 3-bladed propellers. This is for pulling bi-bladed propellers. This will also pull tri-bladed propellers. This thing's kind of fiddly, if I'm honest. This is way easier to use, but like really fragile tri-blade propellers like the new Gemfan 1209s or the Nubidron Azis, this will wreck the propeller when you're pulling it off. This will not. So yeah, let me know what color you want. If I have that color, I'll throw it in there. Let me know if you want a Proptopussy or a Propodial. Why is it so fucking funny to me? Why is saying it that way so funny? And for patrons, let me know which one of these stickers you want, and I'll throw that in as well. There's a Teespring store where you can get some fun shirts and other random apparel. There are a whole bunch of affiliate links. Change your bookmarks to someone's affiliate link. Support people making stuff that you can watch for free on YouTube, and they'll keep making stuff for you to watch for free on YouTube. At some point, coming to the Etsy store is going to be a DSLR. This is a Canon, what is it? T6. If somebody wants to get into photography, this is an awesome, cheap, entry-level thing. Comes with a battery, a charger, not an extra battery, but it does come with, or if you want to start doing, I used to use this camera for the main camera for the live streams. This is the USB to dummy battery thing that allows you to have constant power to it. This is a 40mm pancake lens. It's actually really good. It comes with a little lens hood. Let me know. I don't know what these sell for. I have to go on eBay and look at sold items. But as always, I like to give you guys that actually watch the live streams first crack at anything that I'm going to be selling. So, yeah, I used this camera for the last, 2 or so years for the live streams. It's great. It's an older DSLR, but, DSLRs are awesome. Big old glass in the front. Pretty decent sized sensor. If you're going to use it for live streaming, fair warning, you're going to have to deal with Canon webcam utility, which those of you that have been watching for a while will know is not the most stable software. Maybe it's stable on PC, though. If you're on PC, maybe the software is totally stable. If you're on Mac, the software is going to shit its pants about once an hour, and you have to quit out of the software and relaunch it. Or I think you have to turn you have to turn the camera off and on. It's not the end of the world, but it's annoying when you're live streaming 10 hours a week and it keeps happening. Ryan says, you got me way more into tiny whoops the past week since I found your videos, and I've been learning so much from your old live streams. Very cool, man. I love that. Enjoy. Tiny whooping is the way. You can fly when it's raining. You can fly when it's cold. You can fly when it's blizzarding. And it's hard. Tiny whooping inside the house, doing hardcore freestyle shit is incredibly difficult, and it's going to make you a really good pilot really fast. It can be very frustrating, but it's, you know, swinging with a weighted bat. Like if you can learn to do Matty flips and power loops and shit inside your house with 8-foot ceilings, you're gonna go outside and it's gonna be like a joke and you're gonna rip. So do it.
I believe
Kevin
chat
Sumner
has
says-
decided on the
No, go ahead.
next. They've decided on the next name for the prop removal tool. The Propaconda.
Is that for pulling one-bladed propellers? Kevin Sumner says, Dennis Holly, if that's a message for Ciotti, make sure to be sure to tag him.
It's up a
Dennis
couple.
says, which is best for beginners who want a long flight time, like 6 to 7 minutes? That is not quite enough to go off of. You can get 6 to 7 minutes of flight time by putting a big battery on damn near anything, other than maybe like a 65 millimeter tinywhoop. I don't think you're ever going to get that kind of. Well, that's not true. You could probably get that kind of runtime out of this. Here's the deal, though. Here's the answer that you need to hear. The only real reason, the only good reason to want 6 to 7 minutes of runtime is that you want to do long range. If that's what you're looking to do, fair enough. If the thought process, like many others, is like, I just want that, I want to fly for more time. If you build a rig to fly that long, the flight performance is going to suffer. Batteries are cheap, and we hurt our batteries all the time. And so take advantage of the fact that batteries are cheap and build a rig that's going to fly 3 to 4 minutes, which is like everything pretty much, and just buy twice as many batteries. Having more batteries is a better idea than having a build that flies worse, that flies for longer, unless you want to do long range. Long range, in my opinion, is the only reason to build something that's going to fly more than like 3 or 4 minutes. Because long range rigs kind of fly like shit, but the whole point is that you go really, really far, and that allows you to capture really cool footage. But freestyling long range rigs is garbage, because like they make all these sacrifices for runtime, mainly like power to weight ratio. And so that's the answer that you need to hear to that question. It's probably not the answer that you wanted, but it's the answer that you need. Take advantage of the fact that these batteries are cheap. And again, we hurt these batteries all the time. So like if you go through this all this effort of making a rig that flies 7 minutes at a time so that you only have to buy 2 batteries, you're going to over discharge one of those batteries and it's going to get hurt. And now you're going to have to buy another battery anyway. Or you're going to keep flying that one battery and then you're going to lose the whole quad. Like it's just, you know, we've all been down that road. At one point or another, we've all thought like, I want to fly more, so I'm going to make this thing more efficient, or I'm going to strap a mega huge battery to it. And then we do that and we're like, oh my God, this thing flies like ass. And then like sometimes if you're really stubborn, you're like, oh, I'll show you. And then you buy bigger motors for it. You buy pitchier props. Well, now you've made this thing super heavy, and now the frame starts breaking. Well, then now you go to a thing, and it starts this terrible snowball of continuing to you know, upgrade. And then what can happen is like you've added so much weight that the propeller size hasn't changed. And now if you've got propellers that aren't big enough for the weight of the quad, it doesn't fly right. Like when you come off the throttle, it just falls out of the sky like a stone. And so now you have a quad that flies really bad because it's so heavy, but you never change the size of the propellers. And then you make the propellers bigger, and it's just this never-ending kind of thing. So, you know, we've been doing this for 10 plus years. 3 to 4 minutes is like the right amount of runtime. It allows you to build something with incredible flight performance. You're gonna own like 4 or 6 or 8 batteries. It's not gonna cost you a lot of money. You're gonna buy these batteries anyway because you're gonna hurt them. Or you're going to crash it, right? When you crash the rig inverted, the battery smashes into the ground and it annihilates the battery, right? So like you might as well have a bunch of batteries. It's not like you're, yeah. There you go.
Chat's coming up with more prop puller names.
Oh shit.
Danzilla has got Prop Lobster, the B-52s.
We're staying SeaWorld themed. I like it.
And Robert Cyrus has the clam clamp.
That's the best one yet. That's who can top that one. Somebody top that one. Double Jose says, had a bad crash and now my flight controller OSD doesn't show up in the goggles. I can only see through the 04 Lite camera. Flight controller OSD doesn't show up in the goggles. I can only see. That's super weird.
It's a broken. It's got to be if you're running DJI, it's got to be either DJI ETX or flight controller stuff, or the connections for the UART that run between the flight controller.
Yeah, but it wouldn't go into high power mode. So that's the question. Yeah. When you arm it, does it go into high? So if the UART connection has broken between the flight controller and the VTX, the way you'll know it is that normally when you arm it, it sends a signal to the VTX that says, hey, go into full power mode. So if you fly that thing now and your range is terrible, then the flight controller could be broken. The UARTs on the flight controller could be broken. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the cables off of whatever UART they're on, and you're going to put them onto a different UART, and you're going to see if that would fix the whole issue. Pretty much any other scenario, the VTX blew up. Yep. Because on digital, the OSD is handled through that UART communication, the RX to TX, TX to RX. That's a weird one, dude. That's very rare. That I don't think I've ever heard of that happening. It happens all the time on analog, because analog, the OSD is controlled by this big, dumb, rectangular chip, OSD chip on the flight controller. And that chip has an amazing way of attracting solder balls or just breaking off the flight controller. So that's something that we see a lot in the analog world, but in digital, we typically don't see it because it's just that UART connection. That's interesting. Yeah, take the do that test. See if your range is terrible now. If your range is terrible, move it to a different UART. If that doesn't fix it, VTX went. So just start really pounding on it and see if you can break the VTX the rest of the way. You can set a timer on your, because what's going to happen now without OSD is you're going to over discharge your batteries. Look up OpenTX on here on YouTube. Look up OpenTX timer or OpenTX transmitter timer. You can put a timer on your transmitter that uses the throttle value. So at full throttle, it'll be 1 second equals 1 second. So it'll 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. At 50% throttle, it'll go 1,000, 2. It'll go half the speed. At 25% throttle, it'll go 25% speed. Believe it or not, that works incredibly well. You're going to have to do a little bit of trial and error to get the total amount of time. And you're also going to have to set your momentary switch to reset the timer. There's other slick ways of doing it. But the timer on the transmitters works incredibly well when you pair it with the throttle. Because some batteries you're going to fly heavy on the throttle. Some batteries you're going to fly light on the throttle. We used those timers forever in FPV back in the days before we had OSD, and they worked incredibly well. You're going to have to do a couple batteries in a row, though, where like you take a guess. Take a guess at like 1 minute, because again, it's going to be more than a minute because it's going to be going 50% of the time for a lot of the battery. Usually 1 minute on the throttle scaled timer is going to be about right. So you're going to fly the battery at 0. You're going to land right away. You're going to take that battery. You're going to hook it up to your charger, see what voltage it's at. And if it's at like 4 volts still, you can make that timer longer.
Why not battery telemetry over the RC link?
Oh yeah. Right. That works too. Yeah, totally. Yeah, and then it'll you can put an alarm on the transmitter for the when it hits a certain threshold. That's right. After we did the timers, we did that when we got telemetry. I've been flying long enough that when I first started flying, we had no OSD and no telemetry.
Yeah. You can also set up. You can tell Betaflight to transmit instead of full pack voltage. You can have it send single cell voltage. It does basically averages the cell voltage across, and that's what I have set up on my transmitter. So I only have a single profile, and it just says when it drops below 3.5 volts per cell coming over the RC.
Yep.
Then scream at me to go and start coming back in, and then when it goes below 3.3, land now.
Yep. That's slick. That's very slick. Ryan says thoughts on 802s on 65 millimeter Air 2 frame. I know MoFPV said he liked it because of the 1.5 millimeter shafts, and I know you're a big fan of the bigger motor shafts. You can get 702s with 1.5 millimeter motor shafts from Weebleed. I don't like 802s on 1.2 inch prop builds. I find them to be way too heavy. They hammer the batteries. The 702s make all the power that I need. They're significantly lighter. The quad feels a lot better. It crashes a lot better. And yeah, if it's all about the 1.5 millimeter shafts, Weebleed's got you covered. Weebleed actually sells the Screamer motors and the 40,000 kV motors, both with 1.5 mil shafts. So you don't have to just buy the bells. You can just get the bells and then swap them on yourself to your motors if you have Happy Model or tinywhoop or Weebleed motors. Or you can just buy the Screamers, which are amazing. That's their 0702 32,500s, or brand new, they just released their 0702 40,000 kV motors with 1.5 mil shafts. Here's the thing though, at the moment, there aren't any great 1.2 inch props for 1.5 millimeter motor shafts. It looks like they're on the way. It looks like Weebleed is going to have two amazing propellers for 1.5 mil shafts sooner than later. But today, there is not a great prop. The best prop right now is the GemFan 1210, which is okay, but it's nowhere near as good as the current crop of propellers we've had over the last 2 years. Good question. Billy Bob says, what's your favorite color combo of TPU and prop color? My go-to is typically like purple and red, which is the colors from my old logo and the wall back here. Lately, I've been trying to do more like red and white for my new logo. But yeah, purple and blue is also really cool. I've actually been playing around with the colors on these builds lately. So yeah, the purple and blue is cool. A lot of times, like, I'll have a motor floating around, and I'll be like, all right, what'll look cool with that motor? This is the 04 build. It's got purple carbon and then the red TPU. I'm super excited to do the Bando Turtle, the Baby Turtle Bando builds, because I got it in green, like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles green, and then I printed out red TPU, purple TPU, blue TPU, and I'm going to print orange TPU out, the colors of the Ninja Turtles, because I'm an 80s kid. So yeah, I try to mix it up a little bit. Ryan says, what are your thoughts about Beta FPV moving to the GemFan props over the seemingly most popular tinywhoop props, which are the HQ Ultralights? Beta FPV bounces back and forth. They tend to include the newest propeller. I remember back in the day, they were putting 12 GemFan 1210s in, and then GemFan 1219s, and then the HQ Ultralights came out, and they started including the HQ Ultralights in all their stuff. And now recently, the GemFan 1209s came out, and they're putting those in there. So as soon as HQ introduces another brand new prop, I bet you we'll start seeing those. I actually really like that. I like that they do that. It means that they're paying attention, and it gives us those of us that get multiples of their rigs, we get the newest and best prop. So it's cool. You buy a Beta FPV rig today, you get some of the new props. You buy one in 6 months, you'll get whatever the new prop is in there. And I also dig it when they will have a specific color made. A lot of times they'll get like a milky white sort of color, and it gives us another color option for whatever that newest and best prop is. Personally, I don't love the GemFan 1209s. Like, when I put them on to the quad, I love them, but then when I start crashing the quad and the blades get bent up, I love them less. And then when I try to remove them from the motors and ruin them, I get annoyed by them. So I'm still a bigger fan of the HQ ultralights, but to be honest, that's out of laziness and cheapness more than anything else. The Gemfan 1209s are probably a little bit of a better prop because they're lighter, but I don't want to spend the money that it would take to keep the money and time it would take to keep a fresh set on there all the time because I crash a lot. But yeah, can't go wrong with any of them, to be honest. The new Gemfans, HQ ultralights, they're all absolutely amazing. You will not be disappointed by any of them. Gain Green says if if you can tune a fish, you can tune a drone was the best stream name yet. Thank you. when when I was making that, I could not stop laughing when I was making that thumbnail. I thought of that in the shower, actually. I get most of my best FPV thoughts in the shower. That's how much of a loser I am. But yeah, when I was making that thumbnail, I was like, yo, this is the best thing ever. I'm so glad that a bunch of you appreciated that as well. Mask Pro says, what is your profile rate for 2025 12-1 on a whoop? I have a Happy Model Mobile 6 and cannot fly in air mode, but very good in angle mode. What is your profile rate? Profile rate. What do you mean by that?
I think he means rate profile. As in, what are your rates?
Rate profile. I fly rates that you will hate. Mask Pro. I fly extremely cinematic rates. You always want to use actual rates. The actual rate setup is just better than the rest. Just believe me. It just is. It doesn't, each different thing doesn't bleed over into the other one like all the other rate profiles. So use actual rates. If you really want to run my rates, it's 40, 700, 0.7. But like I said, you'll hate it. That's because I am a cinematic pilot. Like I when I'm not live streaming, I'm doing subject driven flying on set, live broadcasts, stuff like that. And they don't want to see crazy flips and rolls and shit. They want super smooth, super chilled out, very, very precise flight footage. And that's what my rates do. I have enough rotation, 700 degrees, where when I get all the way out to the plastic, it does attack and it does really rotate quick enough. And so, like, when you see me flying freestyle, I get away with it, and I fly out in the plastic a lot when I'm flying freestyle. Like when I'm on set and I'm working, I'm doing everything in here, and then when I'm flying freestyle, I'm all out here because that's where a lot of that rotation is. So yeah, my flying looks the way that it does because of my rates, and those are all reasons that every single one of you needs to have your own rate profile, because your rates are going to control a lot of how your flight footage looks. And unless you're doing subject driven flying, there's kind of no reason to run my rates. So yeah, set your own rates. Don't use anybody else's rates. If you use somebody else's rates, you're using them to learn something. You're using them to see what a ton of expo is like. But here's the thing. Just do that for yourself. Use the default rates. The default rates are really, really good. And then one at a time, go to the center sensitivity, move it down a lot, fly it, move it up a lot, fly it. You'll feel a difference. Ask yourself which one you like better. And then let's say that's down, then go down even more and see if you like it better or worse. And it's just trial and error. Bang, 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 bang. Change it. You can change it in the OSD. You're going to go pitch forward, yaw left. And that'll put you into the quad's built-in OSD. And then you go to profile and then rates. And you can change the rates right there. So you can literally plug a battery in, take off, fly it around, get the feeling for it, land it, go in there, change the center rate a bunch, take it back off, save and exit, take it back off, fly it around, see if you like it better, land it, change the rates. Just spend like a couple days doing that. Do the center first, and then do the max rotational, and then do the expo. And now here's the real key is that you go back and you do it all over again, because they do impact each other a little bit, but actual rates impact each other the least amount. But also in that process, you're gonna like figure stuff out, and by the time you get to the expo, you're gonna go back to the center stick sensitivity, and you might want to shift it around a little bit. And so tune each one of them individually. Try going up, try going down, make drastic changes. Here's the other thing. You have to make a big enough change. Placebo is real in FPV, and it's hard to get over. So if you make a change and you're not absolutely certain that you can feel the difference, you can't feel the difference and your brain's playing tricks on you. You got to make a bigger change. And so double that change amount. Keep going. You can't break anything with rates. You can put the rates, you can max all the rates out and nothing's going to blow up. It's going to be unflyable, but nothing's going to blow up. But you're going to learn. You're going to learn what that rate does when you max it out. It'll be drastic. And then you can min it. You can run it all the way down. It'll fly. And you better believe you'll be able to tell what it's doing. So yeah, there you go. That's how to set your rates. It'll take you a couple days. It'll be an awesome couple days though, because you're going to learn a ton and you're going to dial those in. And that's one of the most important things for being able to have your flight footage look the way you want it to look, you to be comfortable flying, right? A lot of you guys, I'm certainly not, I fly low rates, but a lot of you guys are flying rates that are way too aggressive. Lower rates are almost always better. It gives you so much more precision. If you haven't, for all of you guys, if you haven't changed your rates in a while, do it. If you haven't changed your rates in a couple of years, do this exercise. Spend a couple days, screw around with them, and change your rates up. I bet you can get your rates set better than they currently are. It's going to feel awkward, for sure. But I bet you can get your flight footage looking smoother, looking cleaner, looking like you're a better pilot by changing your rates around a little bit. Every couple years, you want to revisit your rates because you're going to get better and you can handle different rates. And the way that you fly is going to change too. When's the last time you changed your rates, Kevin?
I was just thinking about that. I think it's when I finally settled on a freestyle style that I liked, which is a lot more cinematic than harsh, spangy, flippy floppy, grinded out craziness.
Yeah.
I think that was my last time, and I settled on pretty low rates as well. I was thinking about Mass Pro. It was actually taking me back to when I first was starting FPV and transitioning from angle to acro mode, and it was
it's hard.
It was. I started with the naive, like, let me run Bardwell's rates, and I think his max rotation is 900.
It's big.
And I was like, I can't fly this. And so I moved back to Betaflight defaults, which I want to say are like 300 or something. They're kind of low.
It's 600. It's
600,
it's
that's right.
650. You know what's funny? Betaflight defaults are not too far off from my rates.
And then I cut it in half to get in the air.
Oh yeah, okay.
And once you get in the air, like, you train yourself on acro mode at slow rates with a fair amount of expo, and then as you get comfortable just getting into the air, like taking off and landing. If you can take off and land, okay, now we're gonna now work on like moving forward and then landing. And like it was about 4 hours of just retraining my fingers and my brain to do acro instead of angle. And then eventually it was like, okay, it's time for me to like actually start dialing in my rates, dialing them back up. I ran, I didn't know any better. I ran 533 rates for a while, which Evan Turner's rates are not that bad. They can be a little harsh because he's a racer, and but yeah, I think I settled. I can't even tell you what my rates are right now. They're in a Betaflight profile, and I just apply it to every quad, and I don't think about it anymore.
Yeah. Which is actually a good point. Don't change your rates too often, friends. Spend some time getting them dialed in and leave them for a while, like a couple months for a while. And then revisit them, especially like when you're new. When you're new, get rates that'll like get you not crashing all the time, and then leave them for a while. But then revisit them. Like as you get better, you can handle more rate. And then the other thing is running really low max rotational rate is great for when you're new, just like Kevin was just saying. But you want to get that up, in my opinion, to at least 500 or 600, because as you get better, you'll be able to like hit something and then recover quick enough. And if you're below like 500, that amount of time that it's going to take that thing for you to make the correction is going to become a little bit too long, and you're probably going to crash. There is a sweet spot. Like, the racers are a little bit different. They'll run crazy low rotational rate because like when they hit something, it's kind of over for them. And so like it's not so much of a like I need to be able to recover. For freestyle and just for flying for fun, it does make a difference because you're in your neighbor's backyard or you're above the street where there's, you know, potentially a car that's going to run you over. And so like you want to have enough max rotational rate that you can make a quick fix. You can make a quick correction to not crash. And so it's not just about, you know, doing snap rolls and snap flips. It's about being able to correct yourself. All that being said, you can run the weirdest rates ever and get used to them. We can get used to anything. But when your rates are too high, there's only a certain amount that you can move your fingers, right? Like there is a minimum amount that you can move your fingers on these sticks. And so if your rates are too high, you're sort of punishing yourself because you're going to be doing all this. What I did at one point is I pointed a GoPro down at my transmitter and I flew a bunch of batteries and I just looked at how much I was moving the sticks. And what I found, this is going like many, many years ago, 5-6 years ago, what I found is that all I was doing was the center. I was just moving my fingers the tiniest little bit, and then every once in a while I would go all the way out to the plastic. And I'm like, well, that's not good. Like I want to use the stick travel. Like I want to be using for as often as I can, as much of the stick travel so that I can maximize the throttle resolution and the stick resolution. And so that's when I started adding Expo, and Expo is the main thing that does that. And I just kept adding more and more and more Expo until it felt awful. And then I backed it off a little bit, and I've actually stuck with that ever since. It's probably about time for me to screw around with different rates, but that's kind of tough because you know, that has the potential to like screw me up on a gig that pops up last second. And I'm, to be honest, like I've messed with my rates a lot over the last 10 years, and like where I've landed is really the best mix of something that I can freestyle with and also fly work stuff with. And so I might never change my rates, but at some point I'll do a live stream about it and you guys can watch me suffer. Zach is doomed by... Actually, you know what? Every once in a while, I'll leave the Betaflight default rates on by accident and I'll fly it and I'll be like, oh, right, this is what no Expo feels like. Zach is doomed by the bell says, have you ever tried running LiPos in parallel? I've got a 60mm toothpick. I think I just messed up the audio. Nope, we're good. I've got a 60mm toothpick with 802s, 450 mAh is literally as wide as the props. Thinking about making a 2P 280 to block less thrust. Many years ago, I built these 1.6 inch setups that I've just over the past week started to take apart. Weirdly, that you're mentioning this now, that I called tiny lifters, and I ran them on double 300 mAh BT 2.0 batteries. And I've actually had a bunch of builds set up like this. Beta FPV actually sells this. This is a Beta FPV connector to run two 1S batteries as 2S. The problem with doing that is when you put a battery that's hurt with a battery that's not hurt, the hurt battery hurts the not hurt battery. And so you got to be really careful with your battery management when you do that, or else that one bad battery is going to kill all of your good batteries. And so like the way to do it is to run all of those batteries on a 1S build and pay really close attention to like the voltage sag and how much runtime you get, and to figure out which batteries are weaker and keep them off of the double battery rig, and only put the good batteries on the double battery rig. But yeah, it's totally doable. Keep in mind the lower the MAH that a battery has, the worse the battery is going to perform. So a 450 MAH cell is going to perform really well. It's not going to sag very much. A a 280 mAh cell is going to sag a lot more than a 450. 450 is sort of the break point. 450 is where these LiPo cells start performing really good. Anything below 450 and they start performing a lot worse. But like 450 to 550 to 650, they're about the same. But then like 450 to 300 to 260, like there's a drastic decrease in performance there. Dagul 11003 says, what's a good AIO to replace the one on my NBD Acrobee 75? I think I have a failing ESC channel motor too because I'm fighting motor desyncs on roll. Already tried swapping motors around. If you're 1S, I have a feeling that the new Beta FPV Matrix AIO is going to be the one. It's still a little bit too new, but it's got 12 amp FETs, which would be perfect for that 75 mil 1.6 inch prop build. It's really lightweight. It's got black box on board. So as long as it's durable, that's going to be the AIO to beat moving forward. If you're not willing to take that chance, the Happy Model X12, but you're going to have to change the frame as well because the X12 is slightly oversized. You're going to have to change to the Module 7 V4 frame, which is a great frame, and it's going to cost you like $4 whole. So like whatever. It's arguably better than that Newbie not arguably, it's definitely better than that Newbie Acrobee 75 frame. So yeah, there you go. Skyscraper says, well, damn, I just ordered everything except copying your 75mm 2S Walkstone build. If you guys copy my build, you're going to have something that I like. And, you know, I've tried a lot of different setups. So, like, it's not a terrible idea to copy my builds. But I don't want to encourage you to copy my builds. I want to teach you guys how to figure this out for yourselves, basically. If you have more money than time and you would rather me just tell you what the perfect build is, over on CiottiFPV.com, there's a link to my Fiverr. One of the things I do on Fiverr is build planning, and that's literally what we do. We spend a half an hour or an hour on a video call or an audio call, and we work through it. I ask you a ton of questions to figure out what your exact situation is, and then I go through a list, and I say, here's the motor you want, here's the frame you want, here's the prop you want, here's the battery you want, electronics, boom, 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 boom. Usually it takes well, it didn't used to take an hour, but it pretty much always takes an hour nowadays because nothing's in stock. And so about half of that phone call is going to be bouncing from website to website to website to try to find anything that's in stock. But yeah, at the end of that, you'll have a customized build plan for yourself that's going to fly really good for your specific use. And it cost me probably at least $5,000 to figure that out in my first like 5 years of flying FPV, because I had to buy an 1104 and an 1103 and a 1204 and a 1404 and this prop and that prop and this frame and that frame, and it's an incredibly long process to get that dialed in for yourself. Or you can just buy a bind and fly and you'll save money over building it yourself, and it'll fly pretty good. It won't be perfect for you, but the bind and flies are incredibly good. But they're not specifically catered to the way you fly, the way you crash, what the weight of your camera system is, all that jazz. Robert says, got you, thanks, you're certainly welcome. Robert also says, used to have IRL rig and race sprints. Oh my god. Race with smoke. Sprints as in sprint cars. That's wild. Those are scary. Those are scary machines. For those of you that don't know what a sprint car is, just Google it. And you'll have, if you're in America, you'll have seen sprint cars before. They're Americana as it gets. They're as American as apple pie. Render says, I wish Sony would make a pancake-esque lens. Closest I've seen is their new triplet, I think 24, 50, and 40, but they're not like a pancake. I gotta be honest, I was very weirded out when I bought that 40 millimeter pancake lens. I got a really good deal on it on Facebook Marketplace eons ago. And And then when I got it, I was like, oh, this is awesome, dude. It's light, it's little. Like, the pancake lenses are cool. Striker says, I can't even do a proper Matty on 5-inch. I don't know what to do. ATP? ATP? I don't know what ATP is. But I've done, I did a whole live stream about how to do the secrets of Matty flips. Check that out. It's, there's a couple little things that will turn a light bulb on in many people's heads. Tanky
ATP
says yes.
Is at this point.
At this point. Thank you, Kevin. Tanky says yes, more batteries. I made a puffy pillow of excitement today. Puffy pillow of excitement. Fuck yeah. Dennis says, which is better as a first drone, Air65 II or Air75 II for mostly flying parks and indoors? Well, the 75 is going to be better for flying parks. The 65 is going to be better for flying indoors. The 65 is probably a better choice for doing both indoors and outdoors because it's not going to break everything you own inside the house, and it's just going to be easier to fly inside the house, it's way harder to fly inside than outside. A 75 mil inside is going to hit your personal belongings a lot harder and just be generally a lot more difficult. So, if you had only to pick one, Air65, get the lowest kV version of it and motor limit it down. The Air65 V2, all three of them have tons of power, way more power than you're going to want for your first drone. You go into the PIDs tab, and there's a feature called motor limiting. I think it's called motor limiting. You'll see it. Take it from 100 down to like at least 80 to get you started. And then as you get better, you can creep it up.
Did you actually mean to say the lowest kV, or did you mean the highest kV?
Sorry, lowest kV. Get the lowest kV. Because it's going to be like at least a year of flying before you'll get bored with even the lowest kV of the Air65 V2. And by that point, you'll have put it into a lake. Ryan says, forgot to ask, trying to find the right goggle antennas for tiny whoop setup. What antennas give the best range penetration for whoops with linear antennas? What are you running? There's loads of good antennas out there. My favorite brands are TrueRC and ORT. Basically, it depends on the goggles. It depends on a lot of different things. But typically what most of us run is, Menace. Menace also makes good antennas. They're a European company. What most of us land on is what's called a patch antenna, which is very directional. And then an omni antenna, an omnidirectional or circular polarized or CP antenna. Your CP antenna you want nice and high because when your goggles are here, there's lots of liquid in your head, which RF does not go through very well. And so with this up nice and high, it's above the top of your head. And then the patch antenna here is very directional, very strong, but very directional. And so the idea behind that is that when you hear the quad is off to your right, you turn your head to the right and you point this very strong directional patch at the quad. And then when you fly to your left, you turn your head to your left and you try to keep it in this antenna as often as possible because this antenna is incredibly sensitive. When you fail to do that, this antenna picks it up. This is omnidirectional 360. And away you go. Can't go wrong with TrueRC Singularity. That's what these are. And then patch antennas. There's a million of these. Buy the one that looks the coolest. They're all pretty much the same. There's not a lot of voodoo that goes into these. There's a good amount of voodoo that goes into the CP antennas. Oh, God. Render says, is the OSD chip the fourth in a 4-in-1?
Oh.
I don't even know. No, right?
It's let's see if I can.
I always forget what 4-in-1 and 5-in-1
and it's it's actually
receiver, VTX,
receiver, VTX, ESC, flight controller.
What's the fifth?
PDB. Back from the old days.
That's so dumb.
Right?
I don't know if you're right about that. If you're right about that, that's so dumb. So we can figure it out. What's a 3? So there's 3-in-1s. 3-in-1s don't have VTXs. Do they not have receivers?
They don't have a receiver, I'm pretty sure. Let's see. 3-in-1.
So it's ESC, it's flight controller. Wow. If that's if it is PDB, that's so stupid. That's so silly. But yeah, no, the OSD chip is not. The OSD chip is there if if it has a analog VTX on board, or if it's meant for analog. There will not be an OSD chip if it says HD. If it's an HD AIO or flight controller, what that's saying is that we're not putting an OSD chip on here, so you're only going to want to run this with an HD system, which doesn't use the OSD chip.
The difference between 5-in-1 and 4-in-1 is definitely the VTX on board.
Right. Yep.
But
yeah, I can't think of what the 3-in-1 loses.
Let's see. Yeah, I can't find one. Like, I'm looking on Pyrodrone right now, and I'm having trouble even finding a 3-in-1 flight controller.
Mike 1CO says, do you try to fix your broken AIOs with hot air, like the ones with broken VTXs? I don't. I'm pretty lazy, though, and I'm lucky enough to get some stuff for free from these manufacturers. And so if I had to buy them all the time, I might dive into that. I have a 2G4 that I'm meaning to try the hot air in the oven trick on. I left it out on the shelf over there. Maybe I'll do it. But I do have a bag of blown up electronics. I will admit, it's a big bag. It's a big Ziploc bag. Did you find it?
I'm looking. I'm reading. I think it's PDB.
That's wild. Ryan says Rimsler had this problem in one of his videos, and he fixed it by re-flashing Betaflight. I think it could be a Betaflight bug that is coincidentally happening after your crash, Zay. There you go. Give it a shot. I forget that every once in a blue moon, reflashing Betaflight will fix really weird problems. It's so rare. And I don't think I will ever recommend that as a troubleshooting step because it almost never works, but every once in a while it does. Did you find it?
No, but we're showing our FPV age. Ringer just said, added me and said PVD. No, it's PDB, is in Power
PDB.
Distribution Board. They are what you had to run when you ran, before there were 4-in-1 ESCs for 5-inch. Had to run a separate piece of hardware that would distribute the power from your battery connector. You got one right there.
This is not actually it, but this is somewhat. Actually, this is it.
That is a PDB.
This is what Frank Nicholas sent this to me. So here's battery pads, and then you can almost see the traces. Yeah, you can see the traces.
Oh God, Uriel just said DJI NASA. Oh.
Yeah, and so it takes the raw battery power and then it distributes it to 4 individual ESCs. This is what a 4-in-1 ESC used to look like. It used to be this big. We've come a long way. Yeah, power distribution board. Nightmare. Fucking mare.
Some folks in chat are saying it's the OSD chip, which was another thing that used to be a separate board that you had to run. Did you ever run the VTX on the separate? This was all before my time. I looked into doing a throwback build with all the schizo gear about 2 years ago. And so I looked into all this stuff, but yeah. OSD, it could very well be the OSD.
Yeah, it would make more sense than it being the PDB.
Good Lord.
Man, it's getting late, and do me a favor, guys. Stop asking really good questions. Save them for Wednesday, because I do want to talk about these 4 builds and show you guys some flight footage. But let me keep ripping through these here, because you guys are asking excellent questions, and like as I always say, like the Q&A part of these live streams is like the maximum amount of help that I can give everyone, and they're really good conversations. And like if one of you has this question, 15 of you have the question. So let's just keep blasting through these. I am going to try to put the pedal down here. Rod FPV says, would the new HQ Ultralight 35mm biblades pair perfectly with 702 Happy Model 32,000s for an ultralight analog freestyle rig in the house, listed on HQ website. Yes, I love that combination. The only problem is they're only 1mm motor shaft, and the 702, a 35mm prop. 35 millimeters, let's call 1.4 inch, right? Let's get away from the millimeters, because we use millimeters for the motor to motor distance, right? 65, 75, and so it becomes super confusing. So 35 millimeter prop is a 1.4 inch prop. 30 millimeter prop is a 1.2 inch prop. All right. So 1.4 inch props, a little bit bigger than 1.2. Meteor 65 Pro frame is the frame that you want to run those on. I've done a ton of live streams about these 1.4 inch setups. They're really fun. You got to keep them really light. You got to be like 17, 18 grams max. It has to be lightweight. And those 1.4 inch props, even the HQ ultralight biblades, are going to... Wait. HQ makes a 1.4 inch biblade? I didn't think they did. Where are you seeing that? Where are you seeing that prop? I thought it was GemFan that made the biblade, and HQ makes a tri-blade in 1.4. Wait, I have my bag of all the 1.4 inch props. Yeah, here. I could have sworn. Yeah, last I saw, HQ only made tri-blades. GemFan made the biblades. But I'm going to answer the question as if you asked me about the GemFan biblades, because the GemFan biblades are actually awesome and just as good as the HQ biblades. The 702 motor is absolutely at its limit with the 1.4 inch biblades. And so you sacrifice a little bit of response time, which matters inside the house, because everything is happening quick inside the house. What you gain is a slower, more floaty, cruisy rig, and it's really fun. It is super fun to fly those 1.4 inch rigs. They're not better. The 1.2 setups are better. They're quicker. The power to weight ratio is better. The motor is not at its bitter limit. They are legitimately better to fly inside the house, but the 1.4 inch builds are real fun, especially if you keep them light. So lightweight AIO, there's only the one frame. 702s, 802s don't work, 603s don't work. They just get too heavy. The other problem when it gets too heavy is the battery life goes to hell, right? We can only really run a 300 mAh battery. And when we start asking too much from that battery, we get minute and 50-second run times, which is hard on the batteries, and it's just too much. So yeah, that's a really fun build, but it's not better. It's just different, and I mean, it could be better. For someone, it could be better. For me, it's definitely not. I think for most people, it's definitely not better, because the hit that you take on response time makes, when you bump into something and you actually recover, a lot more difficult, because you bump into something, you make the correction, and it just takes longer to get back. And a lot of times by that time, it's ping-ponging off another wall and the shelving unit and all that jazz.
Rod clarified, I'm asking you about the HQ biblades. Hasn't tested it for 1.4 inch yet. Maybe he was trying to ask about 1.4 and said 35 mil by accident.
Okay, gotcha. So if you're asking about 1.2 inch biblades, in my opinion, they're too slippery and they're too slidey. They're fun for outdoor. I did a live stream about 65 millimeter rigs outdoor, and I did a build with big power motors and the biblades, and it was real fun outside. But inside the house, it's too slippery and slidey. The tri-blades are king. So hopefully that answers your question. Render says, what purple TPU do you like? The SaneSmart Violet is my favorite. My favorite color is the Hatch box, but I'm looking for a replacement since it's expensive. I haven't heard of Hatch box. Ryan says, are 65 millimeter PID tunes sensitive to prop changes / will there be issues with prop wash, etc., switching between the new 1209s, HU Ultralight, biblades, Air65, bind of flies? PID tunes are always going to be sensitive to prop and motor changes. Technically, PID tunes are going to be sensitive to any changes. in theory, you're probably not running a PID tune that's so aggressive that it's going to make a difference. If you are, I don't think you should be. I think your PID tune should always be backed off a bunch. There's not a lot of benefit to going to the absolute razor's edge. So yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
Tune on the most banged up props you'll ever run before changing,
Yep.
and then change them to fresh props.
That's a wonderful way of doing it. Dagul says, those are close to my rate, 77, 20, 60 actual. Very cool. Very, very cool. Capital C says, my rates have evolved as my flying has improved, as they should. Love it. Ryan says, thanks for answering my question, man. Thoughts on ball bearings on 0702 motors, and you think we need them for durability, or will other components wear out before the brass bushings? The brass bushings are more durable. The bearings absolutely wear out. Ball bearing motors, as you crash them more and more, they get noisier and noisier and noisier and noisier. So like, yeah, to me, the brass bushings are a better deal. If you don't crash a lot, though, you can get away with the ball bearings. We did the testing with the VCI motors, bearings versus bushings, and the bearing motors did make a little bit more power and a little bit more RPM. They're fresh though; they're absolutely brand new. I bet you if I flew 20 batteries through them, they wouldn't anymore.
They're also heavier pound for pound, or
they are
like
heavier.
the same specs.
Yep, they are heavier. Dennis says, which is better as a? Oh no, we talked about that. Mask Pro says, what about the throttle mid, throttle hover, and the throttle expo part is a bit confusing on new beta flight. Thanks for answering. I've not personally dove into that yet, other than like 5 seconds before the one AIO that I have that forced me to use that new version of beta flight blew up. Happy Model is very kindly sending me a replacement. Once this gets fixed, there will be a whole live stream about it, because I need to learn about it too. And sometimes I will do the dumbest thing ever and learn about stuff during a live stream. But I think that connects with some people that learn as they go as well. And so I'm going to do that with the new adjustment in the Throttle Expo, which is the hover point adjustment. What I can tell you is that the midpoint adjustment moves the midpoint up and down. The hover adjustment moves it left and right. And so I don't think it's going to be super hard to figure out, but I'm actually kind of excited to mess around with it. What makes me a little bit less excited is that the Betaflight, the online Betaflight configurator with 2015, what I'll say is on this AIO was very like glitchy and weird and like annoying as hell, and that's the only version of Betaflight that uses that hover point. So yeah, I'm not in love with the new online configurator. Maybe that was just maybe the problem's not the online configurator, it's this AIO, and maybe that's why it blew up. Maybe not. We'll see. We'll find out together. Ryan says, do you have any idea why no one has possession of or has revised any variant of the Air75 II yet? Seems like a super interesting product, especially with the new ESC and tri-blade props. I think it's just because there aren't a lot of people doing tinywhoop reviews and whatnot, and Beta FPV probably hasn't sent it to any of us. They haven't sent me one. I'm not like the first on their list of people that they send stuff to. I'm not even close. But I bet you they just haven't sent them to reviewers yet. Although I did basically build one on a live stream. I essentially built exactly that. And the AIO blew up. Beta FPV is very kindly sending me a replacement. So I'll have a review maybe before anyone else. I've had a rough time with new AIOs. But luckily, it's not really been anything that I've done like too stupid. It's just been whatever.
I'm looking through. It doesn't look like they sent out review units. It seems like they sent out review units just for the frame, not for the full bind and fly.
Gotcha. Yeah, they're pretty good about messaging me on Instagram and saying, "Hey, we've got this. Do you want to review it?" And they have not. I don't typically. A couple times I've bugged them and said like, "Hey, I'm interested in this," but they're pretty on the ball with getting in touch with people. They got a good team of they got a good marketing team. I'll say that. Cool people too. Beta FPV is a great company. They get a bad rap because they sell a lot of stuff, and when you sell a lot of stuff, you're gonna have a lot more broken shit than companies that don't sell a lot of stuff, and so they get a bad rap. But boy, they listen to feedback. They are very kind to a bunch of us that are reviewing their stuff and giving them feedback. They've made major changes in a bunch of their stuff. Like I've been extremely impressed with Beta FPV. Nathan Wells changed his ELRS packet rate on Radiomaster Pocket from 150 to 250. Now it takes 30 seconds or more before I see ELRS connection and can arm. Rig is Beta FPV1 Matrix HD 04 Lite. I never noticed that changing. I've never run 150 hertz, but I'm on 250, and it'll do the same thing if I power the quad up before I power my transmitter up. I think what's happening is, like, it looks for the channel that it last connected to, and if it doesn't see a connection, it starts checking all the other channels, and it goes all the way around the horn, and then it comes back to that original one. And so what you want to do is power your transmitter up first, and then plug the quad in. And so what I think happens is when the quad powers up, the ELRS in the quad looks for a transmitter on the last known channel, and if it sees it, bang, it connects right away. But yeah, I get a similar thing. It takes forever. That's why sometimes when I'm about to fly on stream, I'm like, it's going around the horn.
There's a way to fix this.
I thought there was a way to fix it.
And I don't think it's the channel hopping. I think it's the it checks the different packet rates.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And you can statically set the packet rate on the quad if you're having issues with it connecting. But yeah, the way to do it is make sure that your controller is on first and then turn on your quad.
That's such an easy thing to do that, like, doing it the better way is not I'm not even interested. It's probably easy. You probably just go into the Lewis script and like Distill Terrible says, but I just want to copy CiottiFPV's build.
Don't we all?
Ryan says, is jittery and twitchy flying on an Air65 racing even after replacing props, possibly due to anything other than bent motor shaft, damaged motor? If you smashed into something and then this behavior started, or if when you were removing propellers, you put a lot of energy into it, you bent your motor shafts. And so take the props off, go into the motors tab of Betaflight, spin the motors up really slowly. Take your finger, the motor is now spinning really slowly. And so if the motor shaft is bent, it's going to be wobbling. Take your fingernail, push it up against each motor. If you've got one or two motors that are like tapping against your fingernail more than the other motors, you just found your problem. Super easy to troubleshoot that.
The other thing that it could be, and I hate to say this, is gyro going bad.
Could be. That's pretty rare, but it absolutely could be.
Rare.
It's usually motors. Check them first. If fresh props, always blame props first. Outside in. The show Silicon Valley, middle out. What is it? Compression algorithm?
Middle out compression. Right? Oh my god.
Middle out. Quads, outside in. Outside in. Propellers, always blame them first. Always blame motors second. Always blame the frame third. And then the electronics, the gyro, the AIO.
Just remember, friends, you got a hot swap on the downstroke.
Jesus. This getting demonetized. Not that I monetize anyway. Hey, go to CiottiFPV.com and support me because I don't monetize these live streams so that you guys don't have to watch a million commercials. But also because YouTube doesn't pay jack shit. The money, it's not about the money. Unfortunately, when you don't monetize your streams, YouTube doesn't really recommend you to any new people. But fuck that. I would rather have a smaller audience that gives me $3. More people give me $3 a month than us to get a bunch of new freaks in here. Everybody new just went, wait, what? No, I love you all, but yeah, I would rather you all not have to watch commercial. I'm willing to sacrifice, less new people and 45 cents less a month. It's so ridiculously bad. But yeah, hook a brother up. Join my Patreon. You'll love it. It's cool. The coolest community in the
world.
Oh, it played it in my earbud. It's Jeremy Clarkson saying "in the world." Sporty says, I have the opposite problem. If anyone built it one specific way, then I won't. God, what were we talking about? I gotta go. I gotta go. Go ahead, Kevin.
I think he's talking about if somebody built a quad a specific way, instead of copying their build, he wants to avoid copying their.
I gotcha. Making stuff different because being different is fun. I get it. Believe me, I get it. Robert says, just starting, so I'm binge watching everything and nothing is in stock. LOL. Yeah, the nothing is in stock thing is, it is just so annoying. Mike Coolio says, just bought 60 minutes to discuss a build. Nice, dude. Very cool. I will, like I said earlier, I'm pretty exhausted by the end of these live streams. I might get back to you tonight. I might get back to you tomorrow, but I'll get back to you for sure. We'll get it all lined up. Ryan says, thanks, man, but why not run a linear omni instead of a circular polarized for our linear whoops? Would they perform the same? The circular polarized antenna works really well with the linear antennas. I can't remember if it works better. I can't remember, but it's going to work totally fine. They're typically a better quality antenna. They are better tuned. The linear whip antennas are not very well tuned. And eventually you're going to get a bigger quad that uses a CP antenna on the quad side, or you can even put a CP on the quads. I have a couple micros that have CPs on them that I use for like cinematic-ish flying. And so yeah, having a CP antenna in your goggles is the way to go.
Just don't be cross polarized, which is when you have left on the quad and right on your goggles, or vice versa.
Yeah,
linear to
analog
circular is fine. What
is it? Analog and HD0, right hand circular polarized, digital left hand circular polarized. That's all you gotta know. Does the fan noise on the HD0 goggles bother you? Not at all. Seems like some viewers have mentioned now.
I turn mine down. You can tune it.
Do you?
Yeah.
Ryan says 3-in-1 loses the ELRS receiver, I believe, and the first gen, beta FPV Air series. There we go. Ryan says, I got Naze 32 in the garage. Pull out your oldest quad. My oldest quad is in the garage. I got to rip. Ask me on another stream. I totally will. But I'm full speed ahead. Gaining. I almost said gangrene. Gain green meow says can't go 2 streams without running #6 batteries. Yeah. I know, right? I'm trying. I'll bet you that no. I got 9 minutes left. We're not flying batteries tonight. You guys fly your 6 batteries though. Part of the reason I put #6 batteries in the title is to remind you all to fly your 6. I flew more than 6 today, so I'm covered for the day. Mike says, which 2S build is right for me? We're about to get there, brother. Danzilla Terrible says, damn you, you're making me buy more stuff. Sorry, dude, but use my affiliate links. Ryan says, what are your thoughts on reaming out 1mm prop to 1.5? Doesn't work. Can't do it straight. It'll wobble. I've been there. I've done it. I've tried it a bunch of times. Can't get it done. You would have to build a jig for it, and it still probably wouldn't work. Break Faded says, what's the best way to get a mic on a whoop? There's not a great way anymore. The digital has completely ignored that. I guess the best way would be to run analog, and then you got to find an analog VTX that supports audio, like the old Impulse RC Tramps did, and there are some TBS VTXs that do as well. But none of the digital systems will support it.
And so, on a whoop, that's going to be too heavy anyway.
Yeah,
and
you would have to
require too much voltage.
Yeah, I don't know how you would do it on a whoop. Because none of the you would have to run an external VTX on the whoop and then the antenna, and it's going to be a mess. Ryan says, do you oil your tiny whoop motors? Do you have oil recommendation? I do not. It attracts too much dirt. If you're going to do it, use mountain bike dry lube. But don't do it anyway. I do it every once in a while when the motors are about to die to try to give them like a little bit more life, but it's yeah, they're dead. Render says, I have nothing but issues with the new Betaflight configurator, right? Keeps gaslighting me saying there's nothing wrong. All my buddies are having the same issues now too. Yeah, it's just kind of buggy. It like I'll have to it'll get stuck in one like in the PIDs tab. I won't be able to go to any other tab. I'll have to unplug the quad, plug it back in, disconnect, reconnect. It's just, yeah. But I mean, you know, it's new. I'm sure they'll fix it. Chef Bruno says, Emacs customer service sucks. Betaflight is great, answer questions and are nice. I've had a pretty good experience with Emacs. I haven't talked to them in a long time, so maybe things have changed. But Emacs makes great first quads. My very first FPV quad was an Emacs Baby Hawk. They treated me very well. They sent me a bunch of stuff when I started live streaming. They were great to work with, but it's been a while, so maybe something's changed. Robert says, Gangly is a thing. What's that mean? DeGoul says, we heard it too, LOL. What'd you hear? Mike Julio says, reach out tomorrow. I'll be passing out soon anyways. Perfect. All right, I'm caught up. Great. 6 minutes. I'm going to take more than 6 minutes to do this. I'm just going to start playing the flight footage so that you don't have to look at my big dumb face anymore. Up first, it's going to automatically roll through this flight footage. And so I'm going to try to catch it as it changes. But up first is Baby Turtle HD 2-inch. The thickest base plate option. Purple carbon fiber because it's just too cool looking. Happy model 1103 11,000 kV motors. Gem fan 2023S propellers. Tiny Whoop 300 mAh BT 3.0 2S batteries. DJI 04 Lite, standard lens, standard everything. And the Flywoo HD AIO. Unbelievably fun. This is close to and might actually be my favorite quad right now. It's so quiet. It's so capable. The 04 Lite looks ridiculous. I can see Scraggle. The narrower field of view for whatever reason doesn't bother me at all. It takes like 30 seconds to get used to. It looks farther ahead, right? Like when you have less field of view, it's basically zoomed in more, so you can see farther ahead. This little guy's pretty fast, and so like being able to see farther ahead is kind of nice. I don't have any problems with it. It's just super fun. It's incredibly quiet. I've crashed it a bunch now. This Baby Turtle frame's holding up really well. These Happy model motors are not holding up very well. At this point, every single like legitimately hard crash bends one of these motor shafts. Maybe it's not just these motors. Maybe it's just because the thickness of the motor shafts on these is identical to all the rest, which is 1.5 millimeter. And so it might be all motors on a rig that has this much power and this much weight, where the motors are mounted to rigid carbon fiber, right? I'm very skewed because for the last like year, I've been flying a lot of these 2S builds in plastic frames. And on a plastic frame, when you hit stuff, the plastic guard takes a bunch of the energy, but then eventually it's going to push into the propeller, and now you're dumping energy into the motor shaft, but it's a plastic frame, and so the frame is going to bend, and it does a really good job absorbing the energy from crashes on these plastic Tiny Whoop frames. And we're going to talk more about that in a minute. That has a lot to do with this whole conversation.
2 questions in chat.
Go ahead.
Sporty wants to know what camera angle you're running.
20. Pretty sure it's 25, but I think it says on the mount. Just to
And
double check.
while you got the eye loop on, Danzilla wants to know exactly which motors you're running on that build.
Happy model 1103 11,000.
There you go.
I've actually I wanted to look this up earlier. I'm 99% sure it's 25, but all I have to do is come in here and click on this. Yeah, 25. PTO 425 cm 4mm. Yep. I like 15 millimeters for whoops, and then 15 degrees up tilt for whoops, and then 25 degree up tilt for pretty much everything that I fly outside. Every once in a while, I'll fly a whoop outside at low camera angle, but it tends to just be a little bit too slow. 25 degrees is a really nice middle point. On like my big stuff, I used to fly 30 degrees a lot. I originally flew 20 degrees, and then I moved to 30. And then at some point with the smaller stuff, I started doing 25, and it's a really nice mix. It's not too much, it's not too little. Up tilt, changing your up tilt will totally screw up your power loops and your Matty flips. And so picking one up tilt and staying with that is a really good idea. And 25 is a really nice middle point. It's not so much of 30. It's not so little of 20. And so, yeah, I'm really digging 25 outdoors, 15 indoors. 25 indoors does work, but you're really hauling ass. I like less inside. And like we fly really different inside, so that's kind of fine. Yeah, this build is for somebody that wants to fly like this. This is fast. This has power. This has throw. With the 04 system, we're adding an extra 8 grams over an analog build. But then to carry that extra 8 grams, you run a bigger motor. And so you actually, with like an HD setup, you actually end up adding another like 10-ish grams or so. I'm going to pause this for 1 second, and I'm going to weigh these builds real quick. The build that you were just watching, all up weight, battery is on here, is 68 grams, right on the nose. The analog version of this build that we're about to watch, all up, is 52 grams. That's the somewhat realistic weight difference between these two. I'm going to clarify that in a second. So 52 versus 68. So if you want to fly digital for amazing quality DVR, for loads of range, right? The digital systems, the way that they kill multipathing is amazing. Being able to see Scraggle is really cool. It's significantly more expensive, right? Obviously. It's not going to crash as well. It's a little bit heavier, but it's still infinitely safe and infinitely quiet. Really, really, really fun. But there's pluses and minuses, and I think about the best I can do, giving you those pluses and minuses. This is, unless you got money, this is not a bando basher. If you bando bash this with the 04 on board, it's a lot heavier. It's going to hit harder. There's also more latency. The digital systems are always going to have more latency. Bando flying, it really helps to not have latency. It helps to be lighter weight. It helps to be able to crash better. If the cost of a build like this doesn't matter to you, this would be really fun to hammer around a bando, because you'll be able to see where you're going, and the DVR that you get will look great. So if you care about the flight footage looking good, regardless of what you're doing, this is going to be it. You could do this build with walk snail. It's not cheaper enough than 04 Lite, and it's arguably less durable than 04 Lite. I don't know. Walk snail has some advantages. That's another conversation. But HD systems are going to have more latency, better DVR, better range, better multipathing prevention, basically. So yeah, there's the advantages of this. This is unbelievably fun to fly. Right now, with there being so much scraggle, this is like a blast because the analog build, as you'll see in a minute, I hit scraggle a lot. All right, that's this guy. Now we're gonna watch the analog version of that similar build, and we're gonna talk about why this is so much lighter than that one. That guy is on 1103s. Those motors are perfect for it. It's got the most amazing amount of power. It is such a blast. This guy, at the moment, I have 1002s on it. They're a little bit too small. This is going to get moved over to, well, if I was going to keep this put together, it would get moved over to a 1003. It doesn't really need an 1103. A 1003 would be plenty. On these 1002s, it flies really good, as you see here. The other big change is that this is on biblades. These are GemFan 2015 biblades. So this build, this is the Baby Turtle V7, which is meant for analog. It's a little bit lighter, a little bit smaller. Same battery, X12, AIO, whatever. AIO doesn't really matter. If the AIO works, great. If it doesn't work, you got to replace it anyway. The motors are T-Motor 1002, 18,000 kV. That is too much kV. I have a motor limited down to 75%. Better bet would be like 14 or 15,000 kV on these. BT 2.0, same battery. This is a Caddx Ant camera. This would be a better Bando basher. It's cheaper. There's less latency. In a Bando, you don't necessarily need to see where you're going as much. There's walls and shit, right? Flying around Scraggle and stuff, like, this is rough. Like, it's... I will just go face first into a tree branch that I didn't even remotely see. It happens once or twice in here. But once there's leaves on the trees, that issue kind of goes away. And so there are definitely pluses to an open prop analog build. One of the biggest pluses is it's cheap. It's cheap. It's simple. You can just abuse it. Like, I'm flying this way harder than the digital one. Because like I think we all kind of do that with analog, right? Just in general. But like B, it's just, it makes sense, right? There's less on the line. It's lighter weight. There's less latency. And so if it's about like just the flying experience and you don't care about the footage, there's, nobody wants to watch your footage, or you just don't care to show anybody your footage, analog is so good. So good. Lots of goggle options. And it's just like OG, old school cool FPV. It'll always be cool. It'll always be a thing. Loads of camera options. Like, you can have so much fun trying different cameras and different antennas, and like it's a blast.
Super chat from Jimmy the Cow.
Jimmy the Cow says moo.
Ooh.
Thank you, brother.
And also Ryan wants to know BT 3.0 over XT30.
XT30 is fine. It's like a 2 to 3 gram weight penalty. So, the BT 3.0, if you already have a bunch of 2S XT30 batteries, just do XT30. If you're going to be buying batteries, do BT 3.0. You can get a toothster charger, a Vifly toothster charger that has the BT 3.0 pads. You're going to save some weight. tinywhoop has these excellent 300 mAh batteries. They also have a 450. They're great. I think that was me hitting an invisible branch. Yep, sure enough. And so there you go. That's the punishment of analog there. Again, the drastic weight difference between these two is because these motors are a little bit too small. It still flies great, like, as you can see, like, it still flies awesome, but like, there's a little bit of prop wash that I can't quite get out because the motors just aren't big enough. The PIDs are through the fucking roof. Going from a 1002 to an 1102 might be enough, but on a setup like this, on these open prop setups with 2-inch propellers, a 3mm tall stator is what you want. 1003 or 1103. Lots of options there. You want between 10,000 kV and 14,000 kV. Really, really fun. What I think I'm going to do, maybe tomorrow, maybe on Wednesday night stream, is I'm going to pull this all the way apart. I'm going to take all the electronics out of this, and I'm going to put it into the 2.5-inch analog baby turtle frame. And then this guy is going to get pretty much the same AIO, but it's going to get set up for 1S with the hot, like, magically different but still the same everything Beta FPV 1102 22,000s to run on 1S 450 mAh batteries. This is the setup that I had on this thing before I moved it to 2S, and it was really, really good. And then I think I'm actually going to sell it, to be honest. But yeah, I think I'm going to use these in turn. Like, this is fun. Don't get me wrong. This is very fun to fly, but this with HD it's just amazing. Like, the footage that comes out of this is so good, and like, for me, that matters. And so yeah, I think these electronics, I could just leave this and then just change the battery connector, but like, it's 4 nuts that I have to take off, and then I can just pull this central thing out, and it's fine. So yeah, that's going to be my super quick, easy way of getting a 2.5-inch build up in the air, and then I can, whatever, screw around with this on 1S. So yeah, there you go. Analog versus HD. Open prop flies the way that you just saw. It's fast. It's got momentum. You can throw it up over trees. It's really fun. It doesn't crash as well, as we're going to see in a minute here. Well, I think that footage actually already played. You saw me hit a branch. It started oscillating like crazy, and it just went dark. That was this propeller blade breaking off, and then it's pretty much unflyable at that point. And it actually crashed into one of my neighbor's backyards, and I had to go to their front door and say, hey, I'm an idiot. I apologize. I got a drone in your backyard. It was fine. I got to meet that neighbor that I hadn't met before, and we had a laugh, but still. These do not crash as well, and will never crash as well as something that is in a frame with prop guards. This will also occasionally crash into the ground inverted, and you will not be able to turtle mode it back over because the props are opened, and there'll be like a thick blade of grass or a stick or something. And so these open prop builds do not crash as good, and you cannot fly them as hard because of that. I mean, you can, but you got to take the walk of shame over and over again, and eventually you're going to lose the damn thing forever. And so you end up you'll lose one, and then you'll learn your lesson, and you won't fly it as hard. If you want to fly super hard and bang into shit and bump into shit and have something you can even fly like inside of buildings, 1.6-inch 2S builds are amazing for that. I'm going to weigh them as I put on some flight footage. We're going to look at the HD one first, and I'm going to real quick try to boost the levels. Inside the DJI goggles, it always looks brighter than the DVR. It is my fault. I just wasn't thinking about it. But I think if I come here to filters, I can just real quick add... Oh, shit, that's not what I want. I can real quick add color correction. And this isn't going to look great, but I just want it to... I just want it to be watchable. Okay, so that's going to be noisy, but just ignore the noisiness. I just want you to actually be able to see what the hell I'm doing. There we go. Okay, cool. So you are now watching a Mobula 7 V3 framed Beta FPV 1102 18,000 kV motored. I think I have it motor limited down to 90%. It's on GemFan 1610 propellers. Same battery, tinywhoop 300 mAh 2S BT 3.0. 04 Lite. The Happy Model fixed canopy with no filter provisions, no nothing. This is the really strong canopy. ORT micro V antenna. This guy weighs all up 50.3 grams. And it's a 1.6 inch propeller. This is not a 2-inch propeller like we were just flying. There are no durable 2-inch frames. There are no durable 1.8 inch props. There are durable 1.6 inch frames and props. And that's the magic here. That's why we do this on a 1.6 inch setup. And so, again, all up weight is 50.4 grams. I forget what the other ones were. So this is lighter by a little bit than the analog open prop build. So with the smaller propellers and well, it's the same size motor, basically, 1002, 1102. Smaller propellers, plastic frame, right? No carbon fiber. These ducted builds are going to be a little bit lighter, which is a good thing because it's a much smaller prop, right? 1.6 inch prop versus 2-inch prop. The bigger the prop, the bigger the parachute. All right. So that's these guys. I fly these guys hard as hell. This is the HD version, so I'm not flying it super hard because I just don't hammer these HD builds. They're a little too expensive for that. But you can fly these things harder. Right there is one of the things that's really cool about these ducted builds. Ready? Look at this float. Zero throttle, zero throttle, zero throttle, zero throttle. They just hang. They are much slower. They're much less aerodynamic. So they go slower when you put the nose down. They go slower when you chop the throttle and let them float down. It's a different, slower, easier, to be honest, flight experience because it's just slower. You've got more time. With the... All right, let me actually... It's going to drive me insane because if I don't fix it... Oh, hold on. If I don't fix that, I'm going to forget and it's going to be bad. There we go. Color correction off. Okay. This is incredibly fun. You can fly this at the mall, right? You can go gorilla whooping like crazy with this on same quality, crazy quality 04 Lite footage. You want to keep these as light as you possibly can. I don't think you should put one of those crazy wide angle flywoo cameras on these. This is slower and it's zoomed in. So you can see farther ahead and it's slower. So like this feels very controllable. Like you see out far ahead of you and it's not going to go nearly as fast as the open prop setups. And so a lot of times you don't crash this. Where the narrower field of view where you can get in trouble is when you start doing the wacky like backwards, sideways, crazy shit. You don't have that extra field of view. You might not see that stick that's like all the way over here, right? Because your field of view is a little bit more narrow. But you will see the stick out in front of you because it's zoomed in more, right? And you get used to it. I get used to it. This is wildly fun, man. You bang this thing into trees and branches and cars and shit, and it doesn't matter. It's all plastic. It's a little toy. Like these are little toys, like for sure. But like you bang this into like the quarter panel of somebody's car, if it hits wrong on the carbon fiber, it's gonna leave a significant mark that's gonna be 1,000. I mean, maybe paintless dent repair can get it out, but it ain't gonna be free. You bang this into somebody's car and they're gonna laugh because it's a stupid little plastic toy. Like this isn't gonna hurt anyone or anything, and that's cool because you just fly it hard and you just don't care and you have fun, right? There's like less on the line. And so if that's what you're looking for, if you want the safer, slower flying experience, boy, these things, these are also much more accurate. They're like a scalpel, man. You get into like your garden, you can duck and weave in and out between like individual little shrubs and shit. So much fun. So much fun. What this won't do is a 100-foot power loop over the 80-foot tall tree. This is not aerodynamic, right? Like this is a brick flying through the air. These are like scything through the air, right? These are also on a bigger propeller, more power. And so you can't do those massive tricks with this. You're going to do your power loops around a smaller tree. You're not going to power loop the whole goddamn tree. you're going to pick a big thick branch on the tree, and that's where you're going to do your power loop with this. So it's a different flying experience. This is what I call tiny whoop flying, is that you're flying smaller, literally smaller. This room that I'm in is a small room. And so I'm going to fly small in this small room. If I was to fly big in this small room, I would hammer into the wall at 80 miles an hour, and that would be the end of it, right? And so with these guys, who these are for is somebody that wants to fly like just inside their front yard, or just like in their yard and their across the street neighbor's yard, right? Smaller spots. These will bomb down the street and rail 4 houses down and do a massive power loop over one big ass tree, right? And so if you want to fly bigger, open prop 2-inch, amazing for that. Amazing. You can slow down with these and you can do some of the smaller stuff, but they're very slippery and very slidey. It's much harder to do that. These are more for that. And so that is the biggest way to decide open prop versus ducted, is how big do you want to fly? How fast do you want to go? Super fast, bigger flying, slower, smaller flying. Also, like more hang time, more float with these, right? You chop that throttle and it just floats down like like a leaf on the wind. I don't have my Serenity movie poster up anymore, but whatever that, I think it's like a leaf on the wind is the quote from from Firefly. Last but not least is Analog 2S 1.6 inch prop, which did that play? It did not play. What is this file? Did I? Oh, I did play this. Yeah, I played you the Analog open prop. So that leaves this one.
Into the tree on branch, ghost branch.
Yes. All right, so that leaves this one. This is very similar build just now, but analog instead of HD. And I guess I'm going to need to boost those levels right back up. But luckily, I left the filter so I can just click it on. That's a bit much, though.
Yeah, you can actually see this one better because these analog cameras do better in the dark.
Oh, dude, Kevin, thank you for saying that. These analog, the analog flight footage I flew after the HD rigs because the analog cameras do better in low light than the HD systems. Yes, you can just crank the ISO to the moon on the HD systems, and they do an okay job in low light. But man, the analog setups are just like cheating for super low light flying. So like, if for whatever reason you always want to fly in super low light, analog is going to do better. You can even get like starlight and even like full blown night vision cameras for analog. Long story short, though, is that analog is a little bit better in super low light than the HD systems. So this guy is Mobula 7 V3 frame, RC and power 1002 14,000 kV motors, slightly smaller than the 1102s on the analog on the HD version, slightly lower kV as well because it's significantly lighter. As a reminder, the HD build was it 51 grams? 50.3 grams. Just call it 50 grams all up for the HD version. For the analog version, 43.5 grams. So there's that 8 or so gram weight difference of digital versus analog. What camera is this? This is a CO3 camera that you're looking at right now. God knows what generation of CO3 camera this is. BT 2.0 ORT micro V antenna. I think this is an X12. Yeah, X12 AIO. Cheap and cheerful build. This is a Mobula 7 1S AIO with a frame swap, a motor swap, and a battery cable swap running on the 2S setups. Same kind of deal. Less latency, less money in the build, and you can just hammer it. You can just abuse this thing. I have a ton of fun flying this thing because you can just go buck wild freestyle, and like you don't have a lot of money in it. It's more durable, right? Not only do you have less money in it, but it's legitimately less durable. The HD systems are not invincible. They will break before almost anything else. Like I guess you'll break more motors than HD systems, but like beyond the motors, yeah, the HD systems, they break. They just do. I wish it wasn't true, but it is. They should be fragile. They're collecting 4K 60 frame per second footage. Like that's insanity. The fact that they could withstand any crashes is a miracle. You're gonna get more runtime. I forgot to mention that the analog setups are lighter weight, so you're gonna get more runtime out of them. You're also gonna get slightly better power to weight ratio from them for all those same reasons. So you'll get a little bit better flight performance with them if you have the motors nailed, right? Like I talked about on this one, I don't have quite the right motor on here. On this one, I have the perfect motor. So this guy actually flies a little bit better because the motor selection is better. If I switch this over to a 1003, it'll fly better because it's lighter. It won't have as much mass, though. If I want to throw these two over a big tree, the heavier one will do a better job. I could just put a bigger battery on the analog one and make up that weight difference. Now I get the same flight characteristics, but even more runtime, right? So having a lighter weight build is always a better option, as long as it's durable enough, because you can put a bigger battery on it, right? Same deal with these two. You could, with the analog setup, you could just run a bigger battery on it if you wanted the extra weight. The analog builds are always going to fly better because they have less weight. And then you can spend that weight savings on bigger motors, bigger batteries, stronger frames, right? And so analog builds will always be able to fly a little bit better than digital builds. But boy, you can build these digital builds to fly like amazingly good. So it's a thing, but don't let that be the main thing.
You want to take some chat questions?
Yeah, let's rip through the rest of the chat. That's it. That's how you decide, friends. If you want to fly really hard and crash into lots of stuff, the prop guards are magic. The motors last forever because they're mounted to a plastic bendy frame. We've got a ton of cool options on these. Well, all these, we have plenty of options, but yeah, those are the primary reasons. Analog versus HD, we just talked a ton about. And then these things are a blast, but you're not going to bash these into everything in sight because they fall out of the sky. When they fall out of the sky, they bang motor bells up. So yeah, these, you don't want to crash as hard unless you're okay replacing motors all the time. It gets old fast. Just fly these safer. They're not meant to bash like that. They're meant to rip down the street and do that big dive gap and the big power loop and all that jazz. So that's how you pick. Let's rip through chat and then get out of here. Good God, it's 12:30 already.
Let me go through because I got them queued up. Striker FPV says, I want to get a 3D printer. Don't want to spend a lot. Probably going to get an A1 Mini plus Overture GPU. Is there anything else I should get with it? Is it necessary or not?
Nope. You're going to 3D print a couple things with it. But no, A1 Mini right out of the box is good to go. I don't know anything about Overture TPU. I use Sane Smart. It works totally fine. But apparently, like, there's lots of TPU that works fine. I'm going to try that Sunloose stuff at some point here. But yeah, A1 Mini, dude, mine's been unbelievably good.
Ryan says, hey, man, thank you for answering all my questions and sorry for asking so many. This was my first time I caught you while you were streaming. Hope you have a great night.
Thank you, dude. Sporty says 25 degrees on Caillou Mini was just constant panic mode. 25 degrees is fast. 25 degrees takes some getting used to for sure. It depends. Here's another thing about up tilt. It depends on where you're going to fly. If you're going to fly a small location, 25 is going to be too much. I love 25 for bombing up and down the street like you were just seeing. But yeah, up tilt is dependent on the size of the space and how fast you want to go. Good point.
Breezy Does It says, when talking fragile, especially on the 04 air units, what's a way to prevent issues aside from blasting a tree? give it a B7000 dunk.
You know what I'm noticing is that boy, does it help me to read the question with my own eyeballs. Where is that question?
It should be towards the bottom.
It
It is like 6 up from the bottom.
I got it. What's a way to prevent issues? Yeah, no, just don't smash into trees. I mean, I've got a live stream prepping O4 air unit. Search my channel for O4 air unit. You'll find it. It's like one of the first ones. There's Mads Tech has also talked about it. Basically, where the connector plugs into the camera, you want to run a bead of E6000 or something around there to strengthen that. That's about it, though, man. Like, they just break. We're asking way too much of them. All HD systems are like this, right? The walk snail systems, it's like the old school Vistas were completely indestructible, but they're big fucking bricks, right? Like a lightweight HD system with just a board and like a million chips hanging off of it. I'm not convinced that that can ever be durable. So yeah, sure. Fix that little camera connector part up, and that's about all you can really do. Trying to see if there's a way I can show you that. It's right in there. So look at the back of the camera. You see that big ass MIPI plug hanging on the back right above the H? It's a daughter board. There's the main back plate of the camera that's square, and then there's this little secondary, it's called a daughter board, that's soldered to the main plate with a whole bunch of pins, and that likes to break off. So in between these two, you want to run a bead of at least E6000. You can also use that UV reactive glue, the Bondic. Bondic is cool because when it cures hard as a rock. E6000 cures a little bit soft, but you're running a big long bead of the E6000, so I think it still kind of works. E6000 is more easily removable. Bondic is a bitch to get off, and so I've never done one with Bondic. If I break another one, I am going to do Bondic on the next one to see if that makes it any better. But just do something. Doing something versus doing nothing on that daughter board will help a ton.
And don't use liquid electric tape, for God's sakes.
For the love of God. If you have liquid electric tape, burn that shit. I Smoke Good says, I got the new Air65 Champion, and its RPM is too high, and it flies into my roof. So much power. How can I fix that? It won't connect to ESC configurator. Did it always not connect to ESC configurator?
Make sure that your transmitter's off.
Yeah, make sure your transmitter's off. But nothing in ESC configurator is going to help you. You need to go to the PIDs tab and motor limit it down. The bottom right of the PIDs tab, there's going to be a motor limiting field that's at 100% now. Crank that down to like 75. The motors on that are absurd. That is basically an outdoor only 1.2 inch tinywhoop. So yeah, that's gonna be tough to fly inside. I'm glad that they didn't send me that one. I'm glad that they sent me the lower KV one. I think there's one more up here. Strager, should I go A1 normal instead of ORRR? I don't know what the ORR is.
We caught that already. He was
awesome.
asking the same question again. Last one, Ryan down at the bottom.
Last one, awesome. Thoughts on a heavy small build with a lot of power using Weebleed 465 or even bigger one? Would the inertia be insane? The Weebleed 465 is so long that it sticks out the front, and every single time you crash, you're going to annihilate the battery. It sticks out the front like that. I'm not even exaggerating. And so every time you crash, you hit the battery and it destroys the battery and it breaks the frame. It's just unrealistic. It's only for if you're never going to crash it. Heavy, small build is going to be very slidey, very hard to fly. When you come off the throttle, it's going to come out of the air like a sack of hammers. It just drops to the ground. They're not very fun to fly. They are very fast though, right? Like it's heavy and it's small, so it's got to blow all this thrust downwards to even keep itself in the air at all. So when you start to tilt forward, it just boogies. So like heavy small builds are very fast, but they're very difficult to fly. They're going to break stuff in your house. It's a very different flight experience. But yeah, most people don't like it. All right, no more questions, guys. We got to go. But we got last two. This is it. BMF Spade, did you see AMAX has an 1103 with the 3-bolt mount, bunch of KV? I didn't, but I am going to be looking at more motors like that here moving forward, so I will see them at some point. I love AMAX motors. I have a set of AMAX Performante 1303 7500s that are going to go on one of these 2.5-inch builds coming up here. And then Level 1 Drone to the last comment of the night says, will you do a live update on repairing tinywhoop motors? I got a good much stuttering motor. I'm sure they can be repaired. Probably not, because they're so cheap, and a lot of times they're not really all that repairable. I've shown you guys how to remove the C-clip on the bottom. I've shown you guys how to solder a different set of wires on. That's it. Beyond that, I have no interest in repairing the motors. It's not worth your time, in my opinion. These are $10 motors. You know, like going beyond that point in the repair, you're going to spend over an hour on the repair. And like, you know, I hate to sound crass, but your time is worth more than that. Also, like the 1mm motor shafts on these things bend so easy that like, you're doing yourself a favor getting a replacement motor, because you're going to get a fresh, clean motor shaft. And so, yeah, pulling the C-clip off and like swapping a bell, sure, I've shown you how to do that. It's pretty straightforward, other than the C-clip flying across the room. So keep a finger on it, or do it in a clear plastic sandwich bag. And then just soldering a different set of motors or fixing the motor wires on is... You know, it's just soldering something small. So those two fresh shaft indeed. Those are the two things. Beyond that, I think you should just replace the motor, and you'll get a fresh motor shaft. Thanks for hanging and helping, Kevin.
Welcome.
Here comes that very first battery where I was flying pretty good with the Baby Turtle 2-inch on 04 Lite. I'll see you guys on Wednesday. I'm not sure what we'll do, but we'll do something cool. CiottiFPV.com to support me. Let's keep hanging out. Love you. Bye.
Yeah. Out in the yard where the grass grows wild, CiottiFPV's goggles locked, grinning like a child. Teddy spaghetti's, fur flies, and jet wash dreams, yeah. Chasing small whoops like a dog possessed fiend. Eyes on a neon blur, hard in the chase. Big fuzz and prop spin, all tangled in place, yeah. Four-legged rebel with a rotor stir tail. In the circus of the sky, they never fail. CiottiFPV, Teddy spaghetti, dynamic duo kings, barking at the breeze, throttling at top speed, they zooming through hoops, flipping in style. That schnauzer's got throttle and a toothy smile. Yeah. Sotty's on sticks, Teddy's on paws. Side by side, legends breaking all the laws. Through the kitchen, over couch scale terrain. Backyard mayhem in their flight domain. No ground too sacred, no loop too tight. Fuzz, fuel, fury ignites the night. When pilot and pup lock eyes on the prize, every whoop they conquer is a fresh cut surprise. Yeah. Yo, Sotty behind the sticks, Teddy's leading the pack. Prop guard missiles unleashed, never looking back. No leash, no map, just freestyle mic. They on the dog drone streets every day and night. Said whoops, hitting low, gotta nail the dive. Teddy push throttle up, feel the beast come alive. I see the neon arc, got the sticks locked in, Teddy. Yeah, let's rip this loop, ride the roar of the wind, Teddy. Yep. Yeah, CiottiFPV, always proud.